the phenomenon. What is it we're interacting with? Are we interacting with more than one thing? And what's the goal?
100%. They are putting on a very carefully orchestrated, vigorous publicity campaign. They really, really want us to know that we are not alone. I honestly think we are dealing with people like us who certainly have a much better understanding of other dimensions. What does this mean? I think it means our relationship to them is a lot closer than we realize, because contactees will get the message. We are you are us, we are one. And I saw his face kind of just melt away. The nose got damaged, the lips, the head got bigger, the hair went away completely. And the message was, they are human. They have a different ancestry, they have damage done through radiation.
I'm specifically fascinated by the mantids cases. Okay, we'll have the small grays, the humanoids, the tall grays, but then way back here behind the curtain, you got like these overseers.
And he turns around, he said it was the scariest thing. They were sitting on these white kind of throne-like chairs, stone, on a dais. And he says, Preston, they were 15 feet tall. He was trembling. And they said, would you like to go to our planet? And he said, no.
I'm so mind-blown right now.
I can see this kind of hole in the wall. And then I'm being hurtling through space. Because I'm like, okay, I'm being taken. This is awesome. And it turns out this is a thing. If you start investigating this, they might start investigating you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are joined today by a very exciting guest I'm looking forward to having a conversation with. This is Preston Dennett. You might be familiar with Preston's work through his various amount of books. Preston's been a researcher for a very long time, and also has a really, really fun, interesting YouTube channel that you should check out, where he talks about these experiences, UFO encounters of all nature. And it's really just, you cover high strangeness a lot as well, which I'm really into. And you have a really good way of connecting the dots. And so I'm looking forward to this. My audience actually suggested to have you on multiple times. So I think they're really excited to have you on. Welcome, Preston Dennett.
Thank you, Chris. I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
This should be fun. I want to start... There's so many cases to go through, which I'm going to eventually ask you about. I want to go through a list of like your top cases, your highest conviction cases, the high strangeness. This will be a really good episode for anyone who's looking to just get a broader sense of all the strange encounters that are out there. But I want to start with your encounter, or your encounters, I should say, of which there were many. And maybe you can start. I'll let you take it away.
All right. I mean, it's hard to know where to start because growing up, I was skeptical of all of this, didn't believe any of it. In hindsight, I'm like, okay, there was that incident of missing time when I was about 9 years old where I missed lunch. I was in my bedroom, and we're 6 kids in our family. You don't miss lunch because they're not going to eat. And I missed lunch, and everyone said, we called for you. I'm like, I was in the bedroom. They said, no, you weren't. I always wondered about that, but never really put the dots together. And a few little things like that, but nothing I could sink my teeth into. And that all kind of changed once I started investigating this subject. And it turns out this is a thing. If you start investigating this, they might start investigating you.
They being the
ETs.
aliens, the ETs.
It's called UFO investigators disease.
Yeah.
Ed Conroy coined that term because he started having contacts after investigating Whitley Strieber's case.
Wow.
And I looked at other UFO researchers. I'm like, wow, a lot of them have had this. And I was in the middle of an investigation of the Topanga Canyon UFO wave, 1992. And I'm over at my brother's house and my sister-in-law. And they're helping me through all this because I was new to this field, and he had an encounter. She had visitations by ETs when she was a little girl. It's in my family. So they're helping me, and I'm like, okay, it's late. It's Sunday. I got to go home. I'm driving. They were in Woodland Hills. I lived in Canoga Park, 6 miles away maybe. I'd leave their house, going around this hairpin corner. Can't go more than 5 miles per hour. And I see what I think is a bird. This is, almost midnight. It's not a bird. It's a little ball of light. So now I'm thinking maybe it's a firecracker. It's July 1992. And towards the end of July 20th, thereabout. So people are still shooting off firecrackers, and that's where I went. And this darn thing comes down and hovers right in front of my windshield, like a foot away. I mean, much closer than I am to you right now.
Whoa, how big was it roughly?
A little bit bigger than a ping pong ball.
Okay.
Not big.
And what color?
White.
White.
Soft white, hard edges. And it's hovering and kind of wavering slightly. This thing goes back to the edge of the windshield, all the way to the other side, back to the other side, and then stops right in front of my face. I'm like, okay, it's intelligent. It's not a reflection. 'Cause, your mind starts, I'm stopped. I'm gripping my steering wheel. And this thing scoots forward, almost touches the ground, and goes straight up. And that's the last thing I remember. And here's the weird thing. I didn't remember this. I completely forgot about it. Out of my mind. And for, 4 months. And then one day I'm just sitting there, I'm like, I remember seeing this.
It just triggered randomly while you were just pondering?
There was no cue or anything. Often people will say, oh.
Yeah.
No, I just remembered it. I'm sticking to this. This did happen. I'm now convinced I had missing time because I don't remember driving home. I would have turned around. I'm like, Mark, Christy, I've seen this orb.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. That's definitely not something you can just move past.
Right. So that was 1992, a big year for me. I had a sighting with my brother and sister-in-law a month later up in Crater Lake area. This light's blinking on and off, and we're clicking our flashlights at it, and it's responding. And then I joined CSETI, the group with Stephen Greer, and we started calling down UFOs that same year, and it just rolled out from there. I started having sightings pretty regularly. I'll tell you a couple of really good ones. I was heading this meditation one year. This was probably 94-ish. And we're all sitting in a group. There's 5 of us. And I just start getting, we're all meditating. Our eyes are closed. This is in Topanga Canyon. Pretty beautiful hot spot.
Yeah.
And I started getting this message, look up, look up, look up, look up, look up. I'm like, I'm not looking up. I'm meditating. I'm trying to call them down. But this message just wouldn't shut up.
Was it audible?
No.
No, it was just an impression?
Yeah. But it started getting stronger. I'm like, fine, I'll look up. No sooner did I look up, there's this dot of light high in the sky, star-like, but it expands, and it's, I hate saying this, but it covered like a third of the sky.
Oh my gosh.
So this is not a shooting star. It's like someone pouring milk on the top of a glass table and you're looking up, it's just expand. And, later talking to Dolly Saffran, she's like, oh, that's a light gate. That's ETs coming in or out. Which makes sense because that same night, 1 mile away, I ended up interviewing this couple who saw this major craft literally just over the other side of the hill. Same darn time. So that was a good sighting.
Wow.
A couple more leading up to my major onboard experience. I'm driving home from a friend's house, San Diego to LA, and I start to see this object over the freeway. This is a 405 freeway, never empty. And of course, I'm maneuvering. Everyone's going 70 miles an hour. I'm like, what the heck is that? Because I know this route. I've done it 100 times. And it's a very low cloud ceiling. And there's this giant globe of light right over the freeway. I'm like, I don't remember that. And I'm so kind of coming closer and closer to it, looking for, some sort of attachment of the street light. No. And I'm right under it. I'm like, okay, holy crap. This is something. I got a message. It said, your niece has just been born. How crazy is that? Turns out that's my sister-in-law who had a major face-to-face encounter with Greys. Her son had a humanoid encounter and a sighting. So they're kind of carrying on the whole ET
gene pool.
Generational thing.
Yeah.
But that was a weird thing. And it kind of ties in.
And was he?
Yeah, she was born.
Whoa.
Yep.
So how did you find that out? Did you call your sister and were like,
oh, when I got home, I'm like, Alex, she was born, right? Yep. My brother had a close-up sighting. That's what got me into this field.
Yeah. Can you tell me about that? Because that really left a mark on you.
It did, because I was a skeptic. I'll never forget November 17, 1986, because I'm watching the TV news, and, you might remember this state. Kenju Torochi.
Yep.
JAL Airlines.
Yep.
Huge case.
Massive case.
Yeah. Which the news just joked about.
Yep.
They're like, yeah, this guy thinks he saw a UFO.
One of the most credible sightings, too.
Yeah. None of that was in the news report. It was just joking, tongue-in-cheek. Now, of course, we know it's got radar, and they were followed for an hour, and so forth.
96 was an interesting year, too. I think, this
was 86.
Oh, it was 86, you said. Okay, not 96. Yeah, okay, that makes more sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was like, 96, it feels a little late for that sighting, but that makes more sense.
I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
And that got me to remember, my brother Mark came running in the house when I was 13. I saw a UFO. And I'm like, no, you didn't. The stars are too far away. You're deluded. I bought the Air Force, party line. Hoaxes, hallucinations, misperceptions, mental illness.
Yeah.
You're all crazy.
That's right. Mass hysteria.
Yeah. And then I went to Mark. I'm like, okay, tell me again. And he described this amazing sighting with his two friends.
Was it a disc or a ball of light? Or?
It was a classic flying saucer.
Wow.
Little lights around it, dome on top, silent, treetop level. They chased it down Reseda Boulevard for 15 minutes, passing other cars. This thing would wait for them. They'd get real close, it would dart ahead.
Whoa.
They'd get up to it, it would dart ahead.
It was playing coy.
Yeah. So he's telling me all this. I'm like, Mark, you're what? It's like, call Phil and Greg, his friends. You know them. I did call them and they confirmed it, added a few more details. So that knocked down the wall for me, opened the door. And I found out my sister-in-law had sightings. She had a sighting over Van Nuys Air Force Reserve Base. 3 months later, saw Grays walking by Stagg Street Elementary School.
What? In daylight?
No, this was around midnight. She went for a walk to collect an abandoned shopping cart. She wanted it. And walking with her little dog, Sarah, and so sees these two kids standing right in front of the school under the floodlight. She's like, well, that's weird. They look bald. And then she's thinking, do they have masks on? This is summer. It's not Halloween. She walks about 10 feet away from them, and they turn, look at her like that. And she said it was like being woken up when you're awake, because these were Grays. She didn't use that term. This was before, people were really talking about this.
She described the same thing.
Yeah. She's an artist, eidetic memory. She's going from top to bottom. I'm like, she says the almond eyes. She says the
wraparound eyes, the giant heads.
I had her draw them for me.
Slit-like mouths.
So I'm like, oh my God. So that was it. By then I knew they were real, and I had all the books I could get my hands on.
But you didn't suspect that you had anything to, because at that point you just thought, oh, these are all just like unconnected, disconnected coincidences. But there's clearly something there if your whole family is.
Well, the first thing I did was like, have I ever seen a UFO? No, I never have.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a year or two to remember that incident of missing time when I was 9.
Yeah, with a ball of light.
Get this. My brother, my sister-in-law is sitting next to him on the couch, and she's like, what's that on your arm? And you could palpate this thing. It was a little stick-like object right under his arm.
Hard?
Yep.
Huh.
And you could see it if you pressed on it. So I took him to a MUFON field investigator who's a doctor. The guy's eyes went really wide. He's like, oh my God, we need to x-ray this. You could remove this. And my brother Mark instantly clammed up. And I'm like, gosh, when someone's within a couple of 100 feet of a UFO, I now know that's a huge red flag. A distant sighting is one thing, but if you're close up.
Red flag, what do you mean by that?
Probably a more extensive encounter.
Right. There's probably something else that followed or preceded it.
Right.
That was more direct.
So I'm wondering, how did that get in his arm? And is it related? I can't say for sure, but it disappeared.
Because the sighting he had with his friends.
Right. It was pretty darn close to him. And I've come to realize.
It's no accident.
Yeah. So it's in my family. I brought it up at work. That was a huge mistake because the lady I worked right next to, she's like, oh yeah, my whole family saw one. My daughter, she had these things come into her room. You should talk to her. It just happened. I'm like, just happened? You're kidding. She's like, yes. It was ongoing as I just got involved in this field.
Whoa.
One of those weird synchronicities. And in walks Dorothy, who you would love. She's so, outgoing, punny. And she's like, oh, UFOs, one followed me home from the library. We live 10 minutes away. The weirdest thing, Preston, we left at 9 o'clock, right when the library closed. It followed us home. We saw it dart away, and her friend Carol turns, looks at the clock, says, Dorothy, it's 10:15. Where did the time go? So I'm like, Dorothy, you were abducted. She's like, what? Because I learned to be a little bit more reserved when interviewing people, but I was young. But
how many people have you interviewed in your career?
I mean, I've talked to thousands upon thousands. Formally, a few hundred.
Formally, and by formally you mean people who have had direct ET contact?
Who would allow me to record them?
Yeah.
And, let's do a full-on interview with you that's official.
Several hundred.
So, yeah.
And with all of that, you've been able to map out a clear, or at least a pretty clear picture of what's going on?
I think so.
So what's your gestalt on all of this? Where do we start here? How do you see the phenomenon? What is it we're interacting with? Are we interacting with more than one thing? And what's the goal, according to you? These are questions I want to know.
It's a loaded question.
I know it's a loaded question, but answer it as you see fit. I would, I give you the floor.
Well, I know there's all these theories about people, like, oh, it's a phenomena. It's an intelligence that wears different masks. I don't subscribe to that. That's
the Jacques Vallée sort of school you don't subscribe to.
No, I know that there are little people, fairies and gnomes, which I think are real. I don't think they're ETs, personally. I don't lump all this phenomena into one thing. I don't think they're time travelers from the future. I've scoured the literature. I have no cases that really speak to that. So they're certainly not demonic. I know that's a very popular explanation. So I dove into all of that. I mean, I became a paranormal researcher. Ghosts, demons, angels.
Exorcisms, levitations, all of that stuff.
Multiple personality even. Yeah. They have missing time.
That's right.
So I looked into all of that, and no, I don't think it's demonic. I honestly think we are dealing with people like us who certainly have a much better understanding of other dimensions, psychic abilities, and things like this, but they're all humanoid, almost without exception. I'm expecting aliens to have tentacles as a skeptic and, just the blob or something.
Sure.
And that's not what we're seeing.
We're seeing bipedal.
Some look just like us.
Yeah.
So what does this mean? I think it means our relationship to them is a lot closer than we realize. And that certainly comes up in contactee accounts, because contactees will get the message. We are you, you are us, we are one. That exact phrasing. I've heard that probably a half dozen times. Exactly that. But something along the lines of, we share a common ancestry. We're not that different. We used to look just like you, the Greys. I actually had what they call a download once, which I always wondered about. People are describing their experiences. I'm like,
it feels, nebulous a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what you mean, because you can only understand so much through words. But I was just out of my mind trying to figure out, who are these Greys? And I was lying there in bed just thinking about it, and then it's hard to describe. Suddenly it's like a vision just pouring into my mind. A lot of knowledge all at once. And what they showed me was a human male, nice looking guy. Suddenly the next frame is he's losing a little bit of his hair. And it started going real fast, like a deck of cards, image after image after image. And I saw his face kind of just melt away. The nose got damaged, the lips, the head got bigger, the hair went away completely. And the message was, they are human. They have a different ancestry. They have damage done through radiation. That was the message I got. But Greys are human. That's my personal message. So that answered something, but
not all of them, though.
No. But before I get into the whole agenda, or what I think's going on, can I tell you my own experience?
Please. Yes. We skipped over that. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. This is something. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know this. And I've watched some of your videos. I'm reading your books, and I'm getting familiar with a lot of your work. But I guess one thing that's somehow just eluded this is your own onboard ET experience. And so you shared this with me over dinner yesterday, and I had a visceral reaction to this. I was literally dumbfounded now. I mean, it is the craziest confirmation for me, for you, that you could ever hope for. As a UFO researcher, you got to go on board a UFO?
Yeah. It's funny, people think, well, he's a UFO researcher, he's
making
this up. I can only tell you what I experienced. And like I said, I think if you get involved in the subject, I was circling around it. They were circling around me.
Where did this happen? Physically,
this was
geographically? In Reseda.
Yeah.
Was it a remote area?
No.
There's
2 million people in the San Fernando Valley. It's more densely populated than all of Wyoming. I mean,
And where were you when this happened?
I was in this little house in Reseda, 800 square feet, house on one side, another, all completely surrounded. And I'm in my bedroom. I'm dreaming, just a normal dream, blah, blah, blah. And then I wake up, and I'm fully awake now because I am being pulled through the wall. I can see this kind of hole in the wall. I'm like, okay. And then I'm being hurtling through space. And here's the weird thing. I recognize this feeling. I knew that this had happened to me before. It's a very electric feeling. A mild electric shock.
Is this anything like an out-of-body experience?
No. I mean...
Really?
I've had a lot of OBEs.
That was my next question, because I know that you've mentioned this last night as well, and I, being a little familiar with out-of-body experiences, having had a few of my own, I know that there is an objective difference between a dream and an out-of-body state. Like,
you're awake.
It is objectively different, but there are subtle similarities as well, because you're in this sort of wishy-washy, weird mind state, but you're completely lucid, and you can look around, look at your hands, ask yourself questions, you can touch things. Like, it's very sort of real, but there is a dream-like quality to it. I don't even like using the word dream, because then people jump straight to, oh, it must be a lucid dream. It's not. There's a difference. But you're saying that this experience of you being pulled through the wall was different from that as well? Was it more real?
When you're OBE, the environment almost seems more real. I mean, it's super vivid. And as you progress with it, that dreamlike aspect kind of goes away, and you really begin to get a control of what's going on, where you go, what you can do. So it's dreamlike in the beginning, but it starts to really get more clear.
And
this was different.
It was different.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but I felt like I'm flying through space in my body.
I'm so mind blown right now. Is it closer to this reality, or closer to the OBE reality, or closer to like something else?
It's a little different.
Okay.
I mean, it is a little different from just walking around.
Yeah, okay, obviously.
But I wouldn't equate it to the OBE.
Okay, good to know.
Because it felt physical. I mean, I could feel it. And this was 30 seconds of me flying through space. That's a long time. Because I'm like, okay, I'm being taken. This is awesome. I remember this happening. This is crazy. I hope I get to stay with them. This is what's going through my mind. Because after I had that missing time experience, I did start to recall some of what happened. I remember being on a craft, and they were showing free energy motors, and the wall peeled back. They showed the Milky Way. I saw how they pull up water into their craft.
Whoa.
They'll sit you in the pilot seat and fly you around. These are kind of dream flashback memories that I pulled back by just meditating. I never did hypnosis. I'm kind of interested in trying it, but I really wanted to do it the way I always recommend people.
Yeah.
Write it down, meditate, work with dreams. Betty Hill, she remembered her whole encounter by just dreaming about it.
Yeah.
So at any rate, I'm flying through space. I'm like, this is great. I am loving this. And suddenly, I didn't see the craft. I'm on a table. And there's this very tall woman standing next to me, looking down at me. She is rail thin, snow white jumpsuit, huge blue wraparound eyes, tiny little nose, tiny little mouth, very tightly curled blonde hair, very short, and just really nice. And she's looking down at me. There's little guys around me, but I'm not really looking at them. And I'm trying to get up. And she puts her hand on my chest like, no, we need to make sure you're fine. I'm like, I'm fine. I've done this. Let's go. It's like, no. We need to check you out first. And I'm looking around, right? Like, there's the round room. Look, there's the walls. This is insane. I've talked to so many people, and here it is happening to me. This is my birthday, by the way. This is my birthday.
This is 2022.
Yep, May 6th.
So only 4 years ago.
Yeah. It's the ultimate, because you know how long I wanted this? This is insane.
I can't imagine.
I've wished for this. I'd be out there at night. Come down, I'm ready.
And it's happening.
Yeah.
Are you saying to yourself, it's happening? Oh my God, it's happening.
Yeah. I did have a gray, I think, once come to my bedroom. Scared the living daylights out of me. I woke up because I thought I felt a cat walking across my bed. I don't have a cat.
There's something deeply ironic about spending all this time talking about surveillance and data leaks and black projects and cryptid apps, and then carrying around a phone that's connected to a carrier that's basically farming your information 24/7. Because traditional carriers like AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile have had breach after breach after breach, and even when they're not leaking your data, a lot of them are still collecting and selling it. And that's where CAPE comes in. CAPE is America's privacy-first mobile carrier. And this isn't just throw a VPN on your phone privacy. CAPE actually protects things at the network level. Their identifier rotation feature automatically changes your SIM identifier every 24 hours, making it way harder for carriers, advertisers, or bad actors to track your device over time. Your phone basically becomes a cryptid. I wrote that joke. All right. They also give you 2 additional real phone numbers included with your plan. No fake VoIP numbers that break half the time. Real encrypted text-only numbers for signups, shopping, 2FA, social media, all the stuff you probably shouldn't be handing your personal number to. And unlike other carriers that store your metadata forever, CAPE deletes call and text metadata after 24 hours. Go to cape.co/area52 and use code area52 to get 33% off your first 6 months. You can also download the CAPE app on Apple App Store, Google Play, and is now available on the Accrescent Store too. Thank you to CAPE for sponsoring this video.
And I opened my eyes, and there's something standing next to my bed that's real thin. And it darted out of my room like nobody's business. My heart went, oh, scared the daylights out of me. I didn't get up, didn't investigate. I've talked to so many people who are like, no, I didn't do anything. I'm like, what? I get it now.
Yeah.
I get how people can completely forget a UFO encounter because I've had this. So I'm on this table, and finally, they let me up. And so I leap literally to my feet. This is a very low table. And there is this very tall gray, who I instantly recognize. Now, you're going to be talking to Dolly Saffran. She's a contactee I interviewed. I wrote a book about her case. And she describes this tall gray that she calls Mama. And that was her. I knew instantly. There's a weird knowing. They communicate very effectively, telepathically. She's 7 feet tall, if not 8, and 10 feet away, and I go right to her because she is the most beautiful creature I've ever seen. She is a gray. I mean, the big eyes, tiny little nose. She's full on ET, not like this other lady who was clearly a hybrid. She looked
Human.
half human.
Yeah, half human.
And she's wearing this kind of smock. And I'm looking up at her, and she tilts her head, leans forward, and said telepathically, so, is this what you thought it would be like? And I'm like, no, this is so much better. This is amazing. And she kind of chuckled. She was amused. I'm like, can I explore? It's like, go ahead. So I'm looking around. We're in a 50-foot wide room, round. And
Any features on the walls?
There was a row of windows all the way around.
Were there archways?
I didn't see any.
Okay.
There might be some stuff I don't remember.
Sure.
But what I do remember is going to the other side and looking down at the Earth, which is round, by the way. And I'm estimating we're 500 miles up from looking at, because I'm like, how high up are we? It wasn't a tiny little globe off in the distance.
No, yeah, you're still in the orbit.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, look at that. This is insane. And so I turn around and I go to the center of the craft where there are 2 rows of people standing. And they're in a daze. They're out of it. I'm like, well, that's weird. There's a black guy, a lady, so different ethnicities. So I go up to this girl. I'm like, hey, my name's Preston. What's your name? And she's just, no,
Not there.
No. And I wanted to like shake her and like, wake
Yeah.
up. But
Lights are on, but no one's home.
I realized probably, no, don't mess with her. I turn and I look, and there's full-on grays. These kind of 5 foot tall. And that one made my heart leap up a little bit because they look different.
How different? They don't look friendly, or do they look?
I don't know. It was different from Mama, they just looked really alien.
Oh my gosh.
They're just, I don't know. It's hard to describe. They're typical grays.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh my God, I'm here.
Jumpsuits?
Yep.
What color were they wearing?
Gray.
Gray jumpsuits. Yeah.
I can see why people think they're naked. I don't think so.
Oh, you think it's just like a skin
type?
I see.
Because people aren't seeing, the anatomy that is there. I do believe.
Right. Under certain light conditions. Oh, you believe they have genitals?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I've got reports of it. So
yeah.
It's rare, but yeah. Then I saw this lady. I think she's Korean. I worked with a Korean girl. She looked just like her. Don't think it was her, but she's fully conscious. She's like, whoa, wow, look at me. And she's over by the other side. So I walk over to her and I'm about to ask her, what's your name? I'm Preston. I want to verify. This is.
Yes. Can you get a last name? Anything.
Yeah, because that would be like something else.
That would be one of the biggest cases ever.
Right. So I'm about to, say, hey, when they dropped the ship, mine, we're like 500 miles up, down to the earth in a second, literally 1 second. And I'm looking down at this view, and there's these little symbols that's overlaid over the window on almost like Google Maps, kind of.
Yeah.
These are like squirrelies and
alien symbols.
Lines. I don't know what they mean. But we're suddenly right down. We're 10 feet above and the craft rocks like this. And,
like it's on a wave.
Yeah. And I felt that.
Like it's on the water.
Yeah. Because I didn't feel anything, like when you're in an elevator and you're weightless.
Yeah.
Didn't feel that.
But the craft itself was behaving, though, as though it was.
Yeah.
You hear about this, obviously. One of the more famous cases being the Chuck Clark video. And the craft sort of oscillating.
I look for that when I interview someone.
Mm-hmm. And you saw that. You felt that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so cool. And then, boom, we're back up. And the next thing, so I turn around, and because Mama is calling, she's like calling to me, the tall gray. She hands me a cup like this, but half the size, and it's thick. It's a thick glass tumbler.
Mm.
And there's this green liquid. I'm thinking, okay, I wrote an article about this, alien drinks. I know what's going on here. I don't know completely, but there it is, the green liquid. And she's like, go ahead, drink it. I'm like, okay, I trust you. And I sniff everything. So I'm like, don't really smell it. It's thicker than water. It's almost syrupy.
Okay.
And
light green, dark green?
Light green, translucent.
Looks like ooze.
Yeah.
Like the Ninja Turtle ooze.
It was maybe 3 ounces. It's not a lot.
And that was the same liquid that Dolly had described as well.
Yeah, I've heard this from a lot of people.
Well, the same tumbler, even, right?
Well, I asked her about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because in Symmetry, she writes about the tumbler as well being thicker. And so that stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Huh. So you're getting all this confirmation.
It's different though, because you get this idea in your head of what people are saying, oh, the walls are rounded. In my head, I'm thinking it's an egg. No, it's not like that. The floor is flat and then it rounds up. Well, this came down like a dome. I've had other experiences though, that I recall. I mean, once I found myself on board, this is a memory, right? And there was a little table and there was this tall white. I could not focus on his face. Wouldn't let me see it. And he said, do you want to see the other room? And they showed me what looked like a power source. That's what he said it was. And it was just slats kind of in a metal thing. And my vision was going in and out. But he pointed to the corner of the room and said, look there. They turned the wall transparent. We were underwater.
Whoa.
I'm like, oh my God. So, I mean, I've got quite a few of these kind of things. But
Let me ask you about the transparent wall.
Yeah.
Because that is a recurring thing as well, whether it's Bob Lazar talks about that in the craft, the wall going just transparent and becoming like some type of screen. I've heard another guy, Jesus Hofremia, who was from Spain, who talked about this as well, as he got a tour in the ship, which looked, again, disc-shaped by these human-like entities, and they were showing him around. The walls just disappeared like they were. But there is also the Aztec craft was rumored to also have that through high-powered tests, high-powered voltage, that it would go.
I suspect we have this technology
and,
somewhere.
And so, but a lot of the reports were that it wasn't completely see-through. Was this completely it wasn't there? Okay.
Yeah, it's not like looking through glass.
It wasn't like looking through like some fuzzy... No, it was clear as day.
You'd think you could stick your hand through it.
Okay.
I mean, it was empty.
Understood.
But yeah, we were underwater. I didn't see anything but water. I'm like, wow, look at that. But,
so when you're back on this craft and the mama calls you towards her, you didn't get the other lady's name?
No, I didn't.
Do you kick yourself sometimes? I bet you do.
Yeah. I would have stayed with them, honestly, because there was a feeling there like, no one's going to lie here. No one's going to kill me. No, I don't have to pay money. It's a different place. It's like advanced. I'm like, wow, I felt at home.
Really?
Unbelievable. It's just a different feeling. But she's like, okay, drink this. I'm like, okay. And I took a sip and I could taste it. A little bit of kiwi, a little bit of lime. That's the closest I can get to it.
Sure.
And it wasn't bad.
A little sour.
And she takes it away from me. I'm like, hey, dude, I thought you gave me this. It was mine. And she's like, okay, you want another sip? Go ahead. She looked at me like I was insane. I'm like, no, really, I'd like another sip. And I did, and blacked out. I'm up in bed. Snap of fingers, I'm back in bed. So I asked Dolly about this. I'm like, they gave me the liquid. What is this? This is to prevent, it helps with radiation exposure. It's kind of a medicine, nutrition type thing.
So you have radiation, you're exposed to radiation on the craft?
Apparently, yep.
Through them, perhaps, because they might be radioactive themselves.
Yep.
Partially explains their physique and their, why they look the way they do.
Yeah, Dolly can go into more detail about that.
Yeah.
But that was my onboard experience. The best one. Fully conscious.
Whoa.
A birthday present. Intentionally, by the way.
4 years ago, man.
Yeah.
That is because you hear about a lot of these cases, and when people describe them, you go, yeah, but you were 9, or you were 7, or you were 4. Do you know what I mean? And after time, not that it has no merit, because I think it does. It's just that people, they have a hard time, sitting on 50 plus years of memory and being like, you can't count on that. But this happened 4 years ago.
Yeah.
There is no way that is just some weird memory trigger. That is objectively, you were researching UFOs and aliens and ETs, and then you found yourself on board. Did you have your memories of your previous encounters unlocked after or prior to that?
Prior.
So
I worked hard at it, and I did a lot of meditation. I need to remember what happened during this missing time. This is driving me crazy. And I started to remember.
How many, so you meditate still regularly?
Yeah.
What do you use? You use HemiSync?
I tried HemiSync. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It felt like it was forcing the out-of-body experience. And to me, it feels like it should unfold naturally. And I didn't really need it. At that point, I was already doing it pretty regularly.
You were already leaving your body.
Yeah. Which, coincidentally, and perhaps not coincidentally, happened at the same time I started doing UFO research and interviewing so many people who've had contacts with oh yeah, I started having out-of-body experiences at the same time. I'm like, okay, click, click, click. Dots are connecting here.
This is blowing my mind.
Yeah. I never talked about, I'm doing a lot of research and people would say, oh, you've had your own encounter. I'm like, yeah, I saw this orb, came down. It took me a while to even realize that was a missing time incident.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, God, I don't remember driving home. I've had a lot of sightings. I'll write them down. I'll tell people that one slipped by me.
Very strange. Very anomalous. Yeah, that would stand out. Because it's easy to say, I don't remember something because, we don't remember most things. But when it's something of that nature, something that you're studying that you take so seriously, you would remember that. You know, so for you to not remember it, that would stand out.
Yep.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, you want to get to the ET agenda now?
Well, before we do, I mean, yeah, you want to circle back to OBEs a little bit later? Because I definitely want to dive into there because I have questions of my own. As you know, I'm exploring this space as well.
I love the OBEs. I could talk forever on those.
So let's talk about it. We can save the ET agenda for a little bit later. I feel like I feel like there's not much we can do about it anyways. The OBE stuff is really interesting. As you know, I explained to you last night. I had 2 spontaneous out-of-body experiences back to back. A month after interviewing Joe McMoneagle, where he talked to me about out-of-body experience. Up to that point, I had never heard of it, and it wasn't even in my mind when it happened. Like, I had no idea when people said astral travel or out-of-body, like near-death experiences. That's where my head went. And I was like, okay, people floating in the hospital room, seeing their body. That is as far as my head goes. So when it happened to me, I was just, I didn't even know what was happening when it happened. It took me like several days to be like, was that what I was experiencing, like an out-of-body? But like you said, like I was researching this stuff when it happened to me. And so that's really strange. But then even stranger is I remember, and I documented this as I was meditating for months, trying to leave my body, trying to have that epic adventure, willfully doing it instead of some accident, you know. And when it finally happened, I was so excited. I couldn't see anything. Everything was dark. I was just, I knew, but I knew I was out, right? There was the vibratory sense. I knew I was out. And I remember in that sort of haze, I wanted to go to Paris for some, I was like, Paris. But as I said it, my voice went like, I can only describe like deep like the devil. It was like, Paris. Like it was like the darkest, and it scared the crap out of me hearing my own voice. And I said this to you yesterday at dinner, and you go, oh yeah, me too. That happened to you. You had the same.
In the beginning, in the beginning stages, that happened a couple of times. Several, actually. It's the weirdest thing. I would try to talk and come over. I'm like, what the heck? Can I not talk? I had a hard time in the beginning learning how to see, learning how to move.
Everything was fuzzy for me. At first, like low saturated, almost like a black and white. Yeah.
For me, how it unrolled was in 1984. My mom passed away, 49, pretty darn young, major heart attack. Devastated, of course, because I don't believe in life after death. We never talked about it in my family. I thought everyone was skeptical of all this stuff. Some weren't. They were kind of hiding. But 2 weeks later, I see her ghost, her spirit, at the service. My dad's driving up in the car, and I see her sitting next to him. And drives right up. I am right there. And she's got a great posture. She's always, telling him, sit up straight. And I had people on either side of me, of course. And I'm looking at them, and they're not saying anything. And I'm not going to say anything because I don't believe in this. I think I'm hallucinating. I've never taken hallucinogenics. I've never really hallucinated. But that's what I'm thinking because I can see her full color. And she kind of pixelates away. I'm like, well, I've lost my mind. I'm clearly delirious with grief. This is my secret. I'm never telling anybody because, it doesn't look good on me.
Yeah.
And that's the first weird experience. I did have a few paranormal experiences as a young kid, but that's an aside.
Well,
anyway, about a year after she died, I started waking up in my room because she would walk in. And I thought I was sitting up in bed. I'd be like, Mom, you're dead. What is going on? And she'd just kind of smile at me and say, it's okay. I'm okay. That happened 10 times, 20. Each time, and then I would wake up for real. So false awakening. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, these were probably pre-lucid or OBEs that I wasn't clicking to. And it got me interested in dreams, lucid dreaming, which I pursued and couldn't really do it. And then I found Robert Monroe's book. I'd like to give Robert Monroe a big thanks here because he really helped me a lot. His book, Journeys Out of the Body. I love his books.
Yeah, same.
But I read his book. I'm like, wow, this guy did it. He's clearly honest.
Mapping it out.
I'm like, this is crazy. This sounds a little scary, actually. But he's like, you can do this. All you have to do. And he gave little exercises, relaxing and stuff like this, meditation. I'm like, okay. Because that's the kind of researcher I am. I'm like, I went ghost hunting. I saw ghosts. I went Bigfoot hunting. I had a Bigfoot experience. I'm looking for UFOs. Had those. I'm like, okay, OBEs. This is something I can sink my teeth into. I can do this. Because it's a natural human talent. This is not something that only yogis can do. Anyone can do this. And he gave the exercises and I doubled down. I meditated an hour a day. And immediately my dream recall doubled and tripled and quadrupled. I started having pre-lucid dreams. I'll never forget my first actual OBE. I go into my room. I'm a little depressed. A lot's going on. I'm in college. My car's not working. I've got this UFO thing I'm trying to handle. And now I'm like, still dealing with my mom's death. And so it's a lot going on for a young man. I need to move out at this point because, I'm still living at home. So, a lot's going on. And I lay down on my stomach and all of a sudden I feel the vibrations. Robert Monroe talked, it'll be a mild electric shock. It wasn't mild. I was absolutely sure I had stuck my finger in the light socket next to my bed because I was being electrocuted. And suddenly there was this pop, and I flew out of my body. I'm flying on control out of the room, across the hallway and into the bathroom. I finally managed to stand up and I grabbed the counter and I'm looking in the mirror. There's nobody there. I'm like, I'm out of body. This is real. There is life after death. This is amazing. It's in that 1 second, my life changed. And I got so excited, whoosh, right back into my body. There was someone in my room, by the way. Some 5 foot tall, maybe 4 foot. I'm like, who is that? What? My vision's so cloudy, I can't see. And I'm, horizontal, and I drop back into my body. And I jump up, I'm like, feeling really good now. Like, I did it. I'm doing this again.
Yeah.
So I did that the next weekend, same darn experience. Third time, I wake up and I'm standing next to my bed in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh, I'm so dizzy. What's going on? I'm disoriented and I shake my head. I'm like, oh, okay. What am I doing standing next to my bed? And I look down and there's my body. So now I'm thinking I'm dead. I died. This was probably not a good idea. I dived back in and I had to wiggle into my body. I'm like, oh my God, this is taking, where's my arm? It scared me.
Yeah.
It did. And I woke up and I almost forgot it. I came that close to forgetting it. But from that point on, I'm like, okay, I'm all in. I'd pop out. I'd be like, I did it. Whoosh, right back in.
Yeah.
It took me a year to just relax enough to
calm down.
I'm okay. And then I would be floating in the middle of my room like a spider. I'm like, this is not working. Finally, I learned, just think. I would go through the door or the ceiling, fly up over the house. And I slowly explored, learned to get farther away from the house. And I wanted to see my mom is what I really wanted to do because this is why I wanted to do it. Like, is there life after death? And eventually she came and we hugged and it was the most amazing reunion you can imagine. And eventually, I popped out. I'm like, Mom, where are you? I'm here, meeting you halfway. Where are you? And she appeared looking young. And you should see me out of body. I'm mostly bald. I had great hair when I was young. I used to get compliments. And, I worked out. I'm buff. Oh, man, I look good, if I say so myself.
How do you know that you look good?
You can see. You're like,
oh, yeah.
And you can create a mirror.
Yeah. You can make one.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
you can create anything you want once you get good at it. You can your thoughts are things. You can create.
It's like instant manifest.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I felt too. When it happened to me, it was a little scary. It was very scary. It was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life, the OBEs, because there is a clear a sense of careful what you think about.
Yeah.
And it was like, I knew that instantly. And as soon as it happened to me, the first thought was, I want to go into a UFO and see an alien. This is the first thought that I had, but it was such a microsecond. And right away I negated it. I said, no, I'm not ready for that. That's too scary. And I knew that if I did, that might have happened. And so that realization hit me within like a fraction of a second that, careful now, whatever you want, you're going to get. And if it's good or bad, you're going to get it. And so I was like very cognizant of this. And I describe it as like walking a tightrope of fear of like, I just got to stay on this tightrope, and I literally one foot in front of the other. I got blinders on. I do not want to look over there for fear of seeing something I don't want to see. And I'm just walking straight and narrow and talking to myself, being like, oh my God, it's happening. Okay, just calm down. And just, I'm doing this. And you know, as I told you, I hear this like female voice being like, what are you doing? And that just scared, like,
disconcerting.
Did not want to hear that. Please don't talk to me. And I went right back to my body. And that was the last time.
It's safe. You should know. I mean, it's as safe as sleeping. You're doing it every night. So
I know that though, but there's the difference between that and then as soon as you're in and it's like, and you're in the upside down and now you're like, oh my God, like it's terrifying.
Well, it's called the emotional body as well. And your emotions come in full force.
Yeah.
When I say I was excited, I'm kind of downplaying it.
Yeah.
I was beyond excited. And when you're afraid, it's biofeedback kind of doubles, and you're like, ah.
Yeah.
And I would get really angry sometimes. I was ready to wreck the place.
Whoa.
I would get overcome with lust. And I could go into that, but it's too X-rated.
Yeah.
But I dealt with that.
Yeah.
And I would create feasts. I'd get hungry. I would create feasts of food. Always the same. I'd create my favorite foods, chicken nuggets, brownies, sour cream and onion potato chips, Neapolitan ice cream, a glass of orange juice.
And it would just all appear
on a table, and I just gorge, which disappears right around here. You can't get full. So I can kind of understand what, a hungry ghost is. That's a term. Or people who die who are addicted to something. Or just, you can't
feed it.
You cannot satisfy it. But I got through all of that, and eventually my mom took me to the other side where it's more beautiful than words can describe. The green, sparkle, everything sparkles. It's all radiating light from within. You can't be in a good mood if you wanted to. There's no way. It is literally, I'm not a religious guy, but it's the heavenly realms. I'll take that.
So you can't be in a bad mood if you want to. Right. Okay.
No. Now, there are lower realms. I've explored those, and those are dark.
So you've done quite the explorations. You've done...
Yeah. I've gotten good at it. I bought every book I could find. This became a big part of my life. It's like discovering a whole new world. It's like once you're in, you're in. Like, this isn't, I don't know why everyone isn't doing this.
It's the same feeling I had when it happened to me. I was like, I need to tell everyone about this. It would change your life.
Yeah.
I think that's part of like the Monroe Protocol too, right? Robert Monroe had this, was it, you call it like the T-1000 or something like that, or the M1000, or he wanted 1,000 people or 10,000 people, I forget what the number was, to experience an OBE, because he believed that if you had an OBE, if everyone had an OBE, there would be no more wars.
Yeah.
And I believe that. I truly do. If everyone felt that feeling,
crazy.
It changes the lens with which you view reality.
Yeah, it exploded my psychic abilities. I started having telepathy. I knew what people were thinking at work. I'm like, you're lying to me. I could hear them talking. They'd be talking to me. They're thinking something else. And it gets garbled. I'm like, what did you just say? Because I'm hearing something else. I mean, it's crazy. I started having precognition, dreams that come true, visions, driving to go get some money out of the bank, right? I'm like, God, this vision is coming to my head of someone standing in front of the ready teller. And he's a 6-foot tall guy in a leather vest, bare chested, long hair down to here, and he's whipping it around like a maniac. What the heck? Why is this coming to my mind? This is insane. And I come around the corner to the bank, and there, of course, he is right in front of the ready teller doing exactly what I saw. I'm like, okay, I'm not going. I got the message. I'm not going to get cash out of that ready teller, because this guy was dangerous, clearly. But a lot of stuff like that. It's crazy. It's insane. So it ramps up your psychic abilities, and I'd come back. I'd feel what people were feeling. I had to be careful. I couldn't watch violence on movies. It was just too much.
I felt that way after the Monroe Institute. After coming back from spending a week doing the gateway process. Have you been there?
No.
You should go.
I would have loved to do it. At the time, I didn't have the time or the money.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, like, because you're in this field and have an audience and everything else, they would probably, like, I don't want to speak for them, but I'll speak for them. I'm pretty sure they would do it for free.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think they should anyways. I think you should definitely, because I feel like you would be also, because there are teachers and stuff there too, coaches, but I feel like you'd have a lot of input based on your experience.
That would be fun. I teach people how to do this now. I've got a little 2-page guide I put together.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Can we link that for the audience? Because I'm sure a lot of the audience is going to be really into that.
I always tell people, just email me, Preston UFO, easy to remember, gmail.com.
Perfect.
And it's 2 pages. I've really narrowed it down. There's ways to do this.
Of your steps that you take. Okay.
There's only 4 obstacles preventing people from doing this. Fear. People, it freaks them out. Skepticism. Oh, I don't think I can do it. Ignorance. They have no idea. It's applied knowledge. That's all it is. And laziness. I tell people the steps and they don't do them. You do these steps. I almost guarantee you will start having these experiences. I can't guarantee it, of course, but
yeah,
some people have a steep learning curve. They're really afraid. Others, I've told people, like, you can do this. Come to my seminar. They come to the seminar. I already did it. All you have to do is even know about it sometimes.
Yeah.
So, but I can't recommend it enough. You can visit your past lives, enlightened masters. That is crazy. Healing temples. Oh, the stuff you can do is just crazy. Secret schools kind of classes to do telekinesis and all those superhuman powers. You're there. You're flying. You're doing telepathy. You're doing telekinesis. Healing. That's a big part of it. I was taken to heal people occasionally.
Like real people?
Yeah.
People that were like in hospitals and stuff?
One was my sister. A couple of people, I don't have no idea who they are.
Were you with anybody when this happened, or were you alone?
No. Oh, they guided me.
Yeah.
I'm almost always alone, by the way. Robert Monroe, he's got his guide. I'm like, what the heck? No. Occasionally, I would have guides, but usually no.
And they brought you to heal people. Now, that's interesting because you have a whole, was it your first book? Was the 300 cases of healing extraterrestrials. It's very fascinating.
It was 100 in my first book. I reissued it because I found every time I speak, someone would come up and like, this is more common than people realize.
You're going to get a lot of that after this. I guarantee you.
Oh,
You're going to have, you'll have enough to write 10 books after this interview. There's going to be a lot of people, I'm sure, that are going to reach out with these stories.
Well, the healing is and I can say this hands down, this is not speculation. It's a part of the ET agenda. This is why people are being pulled on board for one reason, certainly. Because people are if you're going to get on an onboard experience, you're almost certainly going to be examined. And this is so scary for people. I understand. These are aliens. And you're like, I can't move. What's going on? This is crazy. Evil, evil, evil. Well, actually, they're saying to you right now, don't be afraid. No harm will come to you. First thing that every time people are taken on board, they will say that without exception. And this is when people, if you're panicking and you're in complete fear, that you're probably going to have missing time. And that's all you're going to remember. And yeah, it's a negative experience. And you can call the ETs evil. Actually, I've interviewed, hundreds and hundreds of people. About 5%, 3% will say, "Oh, they were evil. They were there to hurt me." The very worst I hear is this exam, occasionally painful, but you can touch a person, and if they're afraid, you hurt me. You know what I mean? So I think one of the main reasons that people are being on board is a physical checkup, because they will often heal you. One of my first cases, a lady was healed of an ovarian or a cyst in her fallopian tubes. Well verified. She went to the doctors and they're like, "Oh my God, you had an operation." This was the day before she was supposed to have her operation. Grays came to her room. And so she goes to the doctor and they're like, "Well, we can't find the cyst. It looks like you have had an operation. Where did you go?" She's like, she played dumb. But they said, "Well, there's fluid here in your fallopian tube. We know you've had an operation. This looks like a laser scar." I'm like, God, this is not the only healing case I've heard of.
Whoa.
Because there's Jacques Vallée had a very famous case of a medical doctor in France who was healed of axe wound on his foot. and partial paralysis in the Algerian War. I instantly thought of that police officer. It's Robert Good and Deputy McCoy, Damon, Texas. They're driving in their patrol car. UFOs there, sends down this beam of light, heals him of a wound on his finger. His son's baby pet alligator had bitten him and healed it instantly. I'm thinking of all these other cases. A case in Brazil of a little girl healed of cancer. Ralph and Judy Bloom wrote about a case of a Peruvian customs official who's on his veranda. UFO shines down a beam of light, cures him of rheumatism and, weirdly, myopia, nearsightedness. Crazy stuff. So I'm like, I'm going to write an article about this because I've got my own case, and here's a few that this subject hadn't gotten any attention, really. There was one article written before mine, but that was by Gordon Creighton of the Flying Saucer Review.
Yeah.
And so I found that. But I found like 30, 40 cases off the bat. I'm like, wow, I can't write an article about this. This is a book.
Mm-hmm.
I dug in. I found 100 cases.
Now 300.
Yeah. And I can tell you this, almost every major researcher out there has cases.
Yeah.
David Jacobs, he's not thrilled with the ETs.
Yeah.
Fine. But he's got a case of someone cured of diphtheria. I found her case. And she's like, well, he misrepresented it a little bit. My encounter was actually really nice. She loved it. And
so there was some fitting it into that threat narrative on David's behalf, you think?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I love him. He's a great researcher. Anyone who enters this field, kudos.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to see that.
Yeah.
Because he helped a lot.
Definitely.
Bring the subject. But Bud Hopkins, he never wrote about it. I cornered him in a convention. I'm like, Bud, do you have healing cases? And he's like, well, actually, yeah. We've got quite a few, and I'm really encouraged. This shows a good side of the ETs. And
yeah,
but let's see, John Mack, Barbara Lamb, Yvonne Smith, Edith Fiore, Tim Beckley, Brad Steiger, Michael Hesseman, RD6 Killer Clark. You name a researcher, I bet you they have a case. If they're focusing on the onboard experiences in particular, they all have them.
And orbs, too, just coming in and healing people. And in hospitals specifically, there's a lot of cases of that, of just these orbs coming in over people and just healing them.
Insane. Yeah. Any UFO researcher knows an encounter can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
Crowded suburb, doesn't matter. But in a hospital,
yeah,
you're kidding me. I found about 10 to 15%, maybe up to 20, took place in a hospital room. Really well-verified cases, some of these.
Yeah, multiple sightings, like multiple people, multiple witnesses.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I can see how easy it is to conflate that with miraculous religious events.
Yeah.
I see how that ties in, and I see why maybe some researchers might be a little reticent or reluctant to want to discuss the healing stuff, because it does seem to cross over into the religious dogmatic spectrum. We look at cases like Chris Bledsoe, a very famous case as of late, and clearly some healing elements there, not only with the ETs, but specifically with Chris himself.
Yep. Not unusual, by the way.
Not unusual, yeah. We had Eric Dansteel, who was here, who said that him, as a child in the hospital, healed another boy after an encounter with an orb. And so, yeah, I can see why people would be a little pulled back from that topic.
Well, look at it this way. When this subject became popular, most UFO researchers wouldn't even touch the humanoid cases. That took a while to bleed into mainstream research.
Right. You mean like the Space Brothers type?
At all.
Yeah.
Donald Keyhope wouldn't touch humanoid cases.
Yeah, right.
Which, I understand him with new subject, and last thing you want to do is bring in the woo. But crash retrievals, no one would touch those either. And now it's the forefront of research. And really the heart of the UFO phenomena is, to me, first-hand contact cases.
Same.
Because that's where everything we know, let's face it, about ETs comes from one source. And that's the people who've seen them. Yeah. I don't trust the government on this subject. These recent disclosures, 3 days ago, I looked at the films. I'm like, really?
Yeah, they're lackluster, at best.
Let's see the Air Force, where was it? Edwards Air Force Base landing. Cooper was there when it was filmed.
Yep.
He saw the film. They have that. Let's
the
see
Holloman
that.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
When Bray and Moultrie, the heads of the defense guys, said, "Well, we know nothing about Roswell." Malmstrom, what's that? Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the heads of defense and you don't know about...
You got the Bob Jacobs video, like all that stuff. Where's that? Yeah.
I haven't gone through all the files that have been released, but I looked at the films. I knew it. I predicted this.
Yeah.
We're going to see more fuzzy dots, and we did.
Yeah, pictures and videos of amorphous objects behaving prosaically. The files, some of them are interesting. I went through them, but they're mainly just sort of... some of them are interesting, I got to say, because like they expand a lot of the cases that are out there already, the Lonnie Zamora stuff. So there's like his whole thing, but then there's like, the guy who he radioed into, and like, so it adds a little bit more to some of these cases. Even there are, I think, 4 other people around the same time that Kenneth Arnold had his sighting that recorded discs. This is prior to Roswell, right? So it's all in and around that area. I think that was pretty cool, but again, like you said, I'm not holding my breath. They promise more, but that's what their MO
gun
is.
Camera footage.
Yeah.
Like, we know this.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to Frank Ficino, his book "Shoot Them Down," that kind of lays it out in black and white.
Yeah.
They've got plenty of footage that we're not seeing.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen footage from these aircraft of missiles that are clear as day, that are like the best footage you'll ever see. It's 8K footage.
Yeah, I mean, some of these whistleblowers I was talking about, they've seen these footage. Where's that?
Yeah, and they talk about how there's symbols on the craft that they can read. And I'm like, well, you got to have pretty good cameras for that. And sure enough.
We're not seeing that.
Yeah. Either it doesn't exist, they're making it up, or they have it and they're not sharing it, right?
Yeah. Well, here's the way I look at it. We think of the government as 3, separation of powers. We've got judicial, we got legislative, we have the executive branch. That's not the government. The real government is the intelligence agencies, the military-industrial complex. I'll name names. I think it's the energy industry, the banking industry, the insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry. These are the folks I think are behind it.
That is the government.
And the highest levels of the military. That's who's running the 1%ers.
Yeah.
There is a cabal. There's no doubt in my mind. So those are the ones I think who are behind the cover-up, ultimately.
Yeah.
It's very hard to pin down, because you can't use the Freedom of Information Act on these folks.
No, and there's a rotating door of this sort of fraternity of these people where they're in and out of these positions into another one. They go from, one government contractor, they go from Northrop Grumman to SAIC to like blah, 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 blah. They're just constantly rotating doors at the top. Yeah. And very few of these people.
From president, I think there's some people in the loop who are within government.
Oh, yeah.
Who are bad actors.
I think you have to be.
Yeah.
If you're controlling this.
But I don't know. That's not my specialty, really.
Yeah.
I'm more into the whole contactee thing.
I am as well.
But I can tell you for sure that healing is part of it. And here's what's also really interesting. Because the UFO phenomenon it's historical. We know this. It goes way back to, ancient India. I mean, stone carvings. It goes back to when we recorded history. And you can see this all the way through the Middle Ages and upward. The Romans called them flying shields, so forth. We know it goes way back. But 1947, something changed. And this coincides, of course, exactly with the atomic age, when this huge super wave sweeps across the U.S. and people start getting pulled on board. And we can pretty much predict what's going to happen when someone's taken on board. They're going to be physically examined. And if you don't freak out, if you can just remain calm, they will talk to you. And almost always, Thomas Bullard outlined this. He was the first guy to really study 300 some cases, and this is what happens. And he's absolutely right. They will give you a tour of the craft.
Every time.
And it's the coolest thing. I've had it.
Yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people. They will take you down to what we would call the engine room. Yeah, the UFOs don't have much in them, but they will show you this, how they fly or what powers their craft, which is almost always something to do with electromagnetics, free energy, anti-gravity, harnessing the magnetic field lines of our planet. People give different variations of this, I think, depending on their own understanding and what they could grasp. But that's absolutely probably one of the first things that happen. Then they'll take you to what I would call the observation deck, the side of the craft, and they'll open it up. And most people will see the Earth below. Or no, wait. The first would be a star field. They'll show you the stars. Then they'll show you the Earth. Then they'll show you the moon. I've got a number of cases of people shown Saturn, which is so cool. It's a very recognizable planet. But they will take you even to other planets. So that's pretty consistent, I would say. That's the best word.
Yeah, but then they show you something else a lot of times.
I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen.
From what I've gathered too, is like almost without fail, you'll be shown or told something like terrible. Like a lot of times there'll be images of like very bad things happening to the planet.
Well, that's the next thing. The conference is what Thomas Bullard called it. And they will start often with your own personal life. Like, oh, you're going to meet this person. You need to move from this area. You're in a good place. You need, to do this, do that. Or this is going to happen to you personally. And then they will start talking about the world in general. And the messages are incredibly consistent. 4 main areas. And I don't care if you're talking about grays, mantids, little blue beings, tall whites, strange humanoids of all kinds, because there's an endless variety of what I would call ethnicities. I'm not sure they're different species, personally, because the ETs will say it over and over again. That's one of the messages. We are you. Like I said, you are us. But the first thing, nukes. They don't like them. They say that we are damaging areas that we're not even aware of. We're on the pathway to self-destruction. This is a bad idea. They know where all of the bases are, all the missiles. They will almost always mention the dangers of nuclear proliferation in any capacity, nuclear material. And beyond that, it would be war and aggression. They're very much concerned about how we treat ourselves and each other, pollution, and the destruction of the environment. Those are the 3 main areas right there. Greed and corruption. That does come up also. But basically, and this is very encouraging to me, because people are like, oh, they're evil, they're trying to take over our planet. I'm like, I don't know. This seems to me that they're much more concerned about how we're treating our planet, ourselves, each other. Because that message is very consistent. And if you're a full-on contactee, almost certainly they're going to sit you in the pilot seat at some point and like, would you like to try it? Or let's go for a ride. They seem to be very interested in elevating people's, I'll use that word elevating, enhancing, encouraging people's psychic abilities. Because it's a rare contactee that isn't having mediumship, precognition, astral projection, remote viewing, healing, the whole spectrum. And here's something really interesting that kind of shocked me, because I'm looking at these healing cases. I'm like, all these people are being healed. Oh, come on, I could use a healing. Millions of people out there are dying. Why aren't they being healed? Why don't they just hand over the technology? Of course, that would be a huge mistake. We weaponize everything. And if everyone got healed, well, we already have a problem with population control. But, okay, who's being healed? Who's being healed and why? Who's being contacted and why? Well, we know it's generational. That's absolutely established. And there's a random aspect, too. If you're driving down a highway late at night, opportunistic almost, ETs, there's so many people who've had that. And it's a one-off for them, which is so rare. Because most people, if you're being taken on board, you probably had experiences as a child. But I was interviewing this lady from Norway. She heard about my healing research. She's like, I got to tell you what happened to me. It's the craziest thing. I was in my bedroom and grays came through the wall. I could see this blue light outside. She said it was so scary. They flipped me over like a rag doll. She was screaming at them, like, what are you doing here? Didn't answer. Maybe she was in a lot of fear, because I think they will talk to you. But if you're in fear, it's hard to communicate.
You're not hearing it, yeah.
But she says that they put this thing on my back, and she described it. You know what like a lint remover looks like? A little handle with a cylinder? Yeah. I've heard people describe this. And that's what she described. She says, they put it on my back, and I felt this pulse of energy, and they filed out through the wall. She ran to the window, and the blue light winked out. So a short experience, 3 to 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, they healed my back. I'm like, oh, I've got 20 cases of back healings, right? stomach aches, cut fingers, colds, flus, everything from cancer to liver disease, kidney disease,
arthritis,
you name it, diabetes, tuberculosis, pretty much this long list that's growing. Backs. I mean, they're gonna come from light years or wherever to heal someone's back. Okay, I mean they are, so whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But she describes this. I'm like, okay, let's go through the list. Because there's 20 questions I ask people. Well, more, but main things to see if you're a contactee. Childhood experiences? Nope. Do you have, light sensitivity? Have you seen orbs, UFOs, missing time? Nope. She had none of this. I'm like, okay, this is odd. She's not showing the markers of a contactee. And so I'm like, okay. I started asking, the hard questions as I got better at this. Do you do drugs? What's your political affiliation? Just random questions, looking for patterns, because that's my specialty. I love finding patterns. And finally, she's like, well, I asked her, what do you do for a living? And she's like, I was a graphics artist. I'm like, well, that's kind of interesting. I've interviewed quite a few artists. But she says, actually, I'm retired. And I don't want you to use my name because I'm pretty well known in my community. I work as for human and animal rights activism. That instantly rang a bell because I had just interviewed Reverend Michael Carter. Don't know if you're familiar with him. He's pretty well known in this field. He's written some books, had experiences. He was healed of a blood clot in his leg, a dangerous condition. He was awarded by President Clinton, I think, for his work against racism. I thought, oh my God, there's John Hunter Gray, social worker. He had a major healing event. I started clicking, click. Jacques Fallet's case, that was a medical doctor. Ray Hernandez had a case involving a doctor. Nurses. I'm like, oh my God, okay. People who are doing good work for humanity in some capacity, these are the ones being healed.
They're healing the healers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's see. I found doctors, nurses, writers, teachers,
artists,
police officers,
too, right?
Artists, musicians. They love musicians.
They love musicians.
It's crazy. But animal rights activists, environmentalists. They interviewed this couple who was in Sedona. They said, no, we weren't abducted. We were invited on board. They were human looking. There was nothing in the craft. All the stories you hear. And she asked, he was healed of a carpal tunnel syndrome and a bad knee. He was a postal worker and did too much walking. And I'm like, okay. She's a herbal healer, and he is a social worker. They live on Hawaii, and he helps out. And she asked them, like, why don't you just come down and fix everything? I'm like, we can't do that. You have to solve your own problems. Heard that a million times.
Mm-hmm. Same, yeah.
And they said, well, why did you contact us? And they said, well, we're helping those who help others. We can only intervene to a limited degree. And one lady, she had a car accident. The ETs told her, well, you basically died in this accident. We're healing you. We can't heal everything because some of these are karmic. You chose this. So
as a lesson?
Yeah.
Oh.
So that might be why some people are being healed and others aren't.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe a bigger plan.
But there's a lot going on here. You know how many rabbit holes there are in this field.
It is astounding, but nonetheless, I think each one of them deserves all the attention. And that's, part of the fascinating thing about this stuff. It does seem like a giant untapped well of information. And it's exciting, but it's also kind of disappointing, because as researchers, we're like, no, there's a sea of information here. I can't go through everything. It's impossible. No. And just the magazines we were talking about yesterday, and those magazines have gold in them. Like there's cases in there that were written down once and never, to be spoken about again. And you would find some of the answers you're looking for in these cases. And just to dig them up and to find them, it's so time consuming. We were talking about David Marler and, his, UFO sort of archive. There's so much there, so much to look through, not enough boots on the ground, not enough people doing it.
People have no idea. The general public has no idea how common this is.
Yeah.
How much evidence there is.
It's so common.
It's funny. I heard a quote from J. Allen Hynek. 1 in 40 people have been taken on board. I'm like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
And I thought, I started surveying all the major researchers and, but was it Bud Hopkins who called it an invisible epidemic? And Jacques Vallée's like, well, there's millions of cases. There's far more. So I wrote this article for the MUFON Journal called 1 in 40, which basically, gave quotes from Whitley Strieber and all the major researchers. Like, this is more common than we realize.
Yeah.
And it was 1 year later, in 1991, the Roper poll came out.
Yep.
Major polling organization.
Yep.
They found 1 in 50.
Yeah.
The editor of the MUFON Journal wrote me back. It's like, you predicted this. I'm like, well, no, I didn't. But it was timely. But when I heard that, I'm like, God, I must know somebody.
And mostly benevolent as well. Mostly like good experiences.
Yeah. I mean, that's a tricky, very controversial.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to gaslight someone who says, oh, my experience was horrible. How dare you say that this was for my good?
Yeah. No, mostly good though.
Yeah.
Yeah. By a vast majority.
It's a bit of a mixed bag in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because almost always people will have some form of PTSD,
Sure.
Nightmares, insomnia.
Yeah.
It's difficult for people. It is very scary. But we're very fear-based on this planet. And what I see is a very set pattern of evolution. When people, if you embrace your contacts, and you really want to find out, almost always people kind of come full circle at some point. Like, well, I was healed. I did have a spiritual awakening. My psychic abilities are off the charts. They gave me these warnings. I followed their guidance. And I've had a few people say, oh, this was horrible. I mean, one guy's convinced they're demonic. I talked to him. He was at what we would call MILAB. He admits it. He worked at Pendleton. Shame on those folks. That keeps coming up. People who went to Pendleton come out with a not okay. And they hypnotized him. They gave him drugs. He had this weird reptilian experience that I still don't know if it's true or not. Because he was a full-on great contactee, wonderful experiences. And those are the people who are targeted by these nefarious government folks.
Into believing that it's evil.
Yeah. So, no, I don't think that they're here to hurt us, harm us. I'm not going to say this is all puppies and rainbows. Because people will come at me like, oh, you're an alien apologist. I'm like, well, no, hold on a second. I'm trying to be very objective. I'm reporting the facts. This is what people think. This is their experience. I'm not putting words into their mouth. If you look at my books, they're largely quotes from the witnesses because I want them to tell their story. It's not my story. It's theirs.
So you think the MILAB stuff, which is like, the military's, for those of you wondering, it is the military pretending to abduct people, but with a sort of evil ulterior motive, basically psyoping people into thinking they're being abducted by evil aliens. That's like the whole MILABs thing, right?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty rare. I'm kind of starting to realize like this could be a bigger problem than I originally thought.
There are many cases of military involvement with some abductions.
Yeah.
Like you look at abductions, they're like, oh, they took us to a field where we'd play and with these other kids, but there were guards around with guns. And you go, wait, what? Like with ETs? Like that doesn't make any sense.
It's really hard to unpack some of this stuff because that's another question I'll start asking people. Do you have military in your family? Is anyone in intelligence? Is there a military base?
There's a pattern there.
A little bit, yeah. But I don't know, a lot of people have military in their family.
That's right.
I have my great-grandfather, and my grandfather and my great-grandfather were colonels. No, from that point, my nephew, he's in the military, so.
Yeah, but intelligence seems to be one of those things, like whether you look at the story of, Harold Malmgren, which feels like he was kind of guided into these synchronistic sort of moments of his life, really key moments, where he then found himself at the right place at the right time, and then...
I think a lot of people who are contactees are in the intelligence, and I think that's intentional on part of the ETs to sort of perhaps do what they can.
From the inside.
Yeah. It's interesting, that lady I told you about at work was like, oh, my daughter's having encounters with Greys. So I talked to her sister. I like to dive deep. You need character references.
Yeah.
Her father's in intelligence. Will not say what he does. Never did find out. The wife doesn't know. Nobody knows what he does. So I wonder about that.
You wonder if there is a dark side of this stuff that's unfortunately very human.
Yeah, I'm worried about the government folks more than the ETs.
Let's face it, the
ETs have been around forever. Are there evil ETs out there? Probably. Look at us. We're not that great. We're living beings on a planet. Are they visiting us? I don't know that I believe that. Remember the Brazilian face peelers?
Yeah, the Brazilian face peelers, but also Calaras.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that's sort of a precursor to the false flag. Some of this. Because, we are flying this stuff around.
Yeah.
From what I understand. But if you look at like major waves of sightings. In France, 1954, huge wave of sightings, landings, humanoids. If you look into the timing of that, I started looking into the timing of UFO events. Dolly, she's like, you need to really start looking at the dates of some of these incidents and see what's going on in the world. So I started doing that. That's when we were allegedly discovering anti-gravity. CERN was put into place right in that area at that time. This is, to me, a huge message. The Topanga Canyon UFO wave, June 14, 1992 to 94. June 14, 1992, there was an environmental summit meeting in Europe. Remember the Farmington wave, St. Patrick's Day?
Oh, yeah, right by Aztec.
Yeah.
Yeah, a fleet of like 200 saucers.
I looked that up. That day they announced that they had just discovered artificial radioactive element californium.
Whoa. Okay.
That very day. Are these connected? I don't know.
Could be. And I think it's interesting too, because I think Howard Menzel was like right at the scene immediately, which for me is a big red flag when you're like sending that guy around to like say, oh, it's St. Patrick's.
Donald Menzel?
Oh, Donald Menzel, sorry, not Howard Menzel. Yeah, and they send him along and then they go, oh yeah, everybody was drunk. It was St. Patrick's Day and that was Mylar balloons that were exploding in the atmosphere for 2 days, know.
A big one releasing smaller ones.
Yeah, exactly, a red one. And very strange. Yeah, I spent some time with the Ramseys out
love
in
them,
they're amazing people. I love them so much.
They spend so much of their own money.
$500,000 and more, $500,000 plus, just researching.
People think, oh, you're in this for the money. I got a few books out there. I'm not rich.
Yeah.
You don't make a whole lot.
No.
Some do.
Yeah.
Whitley did pretty well with Communion.
Sure.
But the timing of that was perfect.
Yeah, but when you look into researchers, like, first of all, the Ramseys make their money elsewhere. They got a root beer company. They got like all sorts of
full time. Are you kidding?
Yeah, and so, but the work that they did was so substantial, and they're coming out with a new book. I think their final book, but like they keep adding to it because they're like just more stuff that keeps coming out about this case. And
Frank Scully wrote about it, and they debunked him so bad.
Oh yeah, and that was a good book.
It was.
Yeah, a lot of Easter eggs in that book.
And William Steinman put UFOs over Aztec and proved that.
There.
Yeah, Gebauer and
Newton, Silas Newton.
They were absolutely framed.
Yeah.
He got it down. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, and people are like, no, those guys were like snake oil salesmen. You're like, no, they weren't. They were very successful, actually. One of them was like a real estate tycoon, and the other one had like oil money. Like they had a lot of money, these guys.
It was a very effective method to quash any research into crash retrievals.
Yep.
And thank God for Marcel finally coming forward and Stanton Friedman breaking that story.
Yep.
Because that opened the door for, there's a lot more crash retrievals, I think, than even within the UFO community, people realize.
Definitely. If you were to name like 5 crash retrievals that you think absolutely happened without a doubt, what would they be?
Well, Roswell, and another one connected to Roswell.
Yeah.
Aztec, the Paradise Valley crash. I wrote a series of books about various states, California, Arizona. They all have them.
Yeah.
Colorado.
Kingman.
New York.
Kecksburg.
There was one at Greeny Mountain in Colorado that Chris O'Brien looked into. That raises a lot of questions. Somebody died over that one.
Oh, really?
Committed suicide. Yeah, I think it happens a lot more than people realize. There's some really interesting California cases. There was a case up in Salinas, I think, in 1947, where this tiny little saucer, and they called it the Air Force, and they scooped it up, and we never hear from it again. So there's a lot of these little...
smaller ones.
Like you said, these magazines have these jewels in them. I subscribe to the UFO News Clipping Service. Thank you, Lucius Farish and Rod Dyke, because they really helped, I think, for posterity to save these cases. And that's been very helpful in my research. But yeah, this is a lot more common than people realize. MUFON and Newfork, they were receiving for years, 10, 20 cases a day. Talk to any UFO researcher, and they will tell you most people don't report.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
I'll be very generous in saying it's 1 in 10, because it's closer to 1 in 100, honestly. So times that by 100, 10, 20 cases.
Yeah.
So, 1,000 cases a day.
Yeah, and you don't have to look further than just like your own entourage. Go out and talk to somebody. They'll all of a sudden admit to you something so insane. And like you go, wait, I've known you forever. My father, before he passed, he also, he was a staunch like skeptic for all of this stuff. And he was military. But he was like, nah, very sort of, I don't know. He had a kind of jarhead mentality. It was just like army, get up, train,
which I understand.
Do the thing. Yeah, he's been to war. Exactly. He's done all the wars and stuff. And then, he sits me down one day and he goes, I was talking about John Mack to him because I always talk to him about this stuff. And he'd always kind of just go, yeah, I don't know. He doesn't like engaging with it, kind of.
Yeah.
And the type. And but I'm very pushy. Especially with my dad. And I'm like, no, Dad, listen, this happened. Here's proof, And I was talking with John Mack, and he goes, and he was very sympathetic that day. And this was towards the end of his life. And he goes, maybe one day I'll tell you about what happened to me. What? Right? And I go, hold on, tell me now. And he goes, and you can see he was like a little shaken up by it. And he goes, okay. And he goes, when I was around 9, I was on a paper route in Montreal, downtown, and delivering flyers to apartment buildings. And I remember it was like noon. It was a beautiful day, summer day. And I opened the door to the apartment complex. I put the newspaper, the flyer into the post, boxes, mailboxes. And he's like, when I went outside, it was pitch black. It was like 11 p.m. at night. He was like 9. Wow. So he had no idea what the hell happened. He doesn't remember anything. So he goes home. He, suffered a savage beating from his father because his dad was like, where have you been? And he thought he was lying because my dad's like, I don't know. I can't tell you. And he tried to beat it out of him, and my dad's like, I still don't know. And so he's like, never looked at it since, and my dad had severe PTSD, like from war, like very, very severe. So I know a lot of people, when they heard me say that story, they were like, ask him if he wants to be regressed. I'm like, not a good idea. I'm like, not that guy. He does not. He wants to be repressed from what
Chris, this is generational.
Yeah.
So there's a sign there.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Very interesting.
Oh man. Yeah. The whole missing time aspect. Parents out there, if they're listening, listen to your kids.
Yeah.
Because how many people have I talked to had an experience as young kids?
Mm-hmm.
That's when it starts. And their parents are like, it was a dream.
Yeah.
Maybe not. But another agenda these ETs are up to is...
I was going to circle back to the agenda because I feel like it's not just healing.
No.
What else we got going on?
100%. They are putting on a very carefully orchestrated, vigorous publicity campaign.
What?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Okay, I'm on board.
They really, really want us to know that we are not alone. Simple. And you can see this because people, the amount of sightings is off the charts. I put out a challenge on my YouTube channel. I'm like, name any town, any place on earth. I don't care how obscure it is. One guy tried to fool me. He's like, I'm going to stump you. Name this town in the Arctic Circle. I can't even pronounce it. It's an Eskimo name.
Yeah.
I found a case there.
Wow.
I've got a list of over 1,000 locations from viewers. And I'm going on the list. I've worked about 200, not quite. Check. Every single one of them. People are trying to stump me. Like, well, this town has 200 people. There's a couple who have stumped me, but I'm not giving up yet because I'm pretty sure I could. But yeah, I'm finding a case in every single one of these places. So what does that tell you? First, the main takeaway is it's a lot more common. It's all over the world. But why? Are they doing this on purpose? I think so. Because what we see across the world is every 5 years or so, maybe 3, maybe 7, there will be a major UFO wave. Huge. I mentioned the French wave of 1954. On the heels of that, I just found out Venezuela had an incredible wave from, October through January of 1954 to 5. I just did a whole outline of it. Really intense. Humanoids, the whole deal. In November, the second week of November 1957, there was a rash of sightings and landings and car stallings in particular across the United States and the world. And here's this weird connection to world events. Sputnik. So I'm thinking there, 1965 was a huge wave. Of course, the Phoenix Lights, Gulf Breeze, Wytheville, Virginia, Hudson Valley, Topanga Canyon, all across the world are these major waves. And it's often these little towns kind of near big city centers. But this, I think, is part of their publicity campaign.
So you think it's deliberate that they're being overt?
Yeah. Well, Frank Salisbury wrote the Utah UFO display. He invented the term UFO display. Because generally speaking, let's face it, UFOs are evasive. They're not flying around any old time. Can't go outside and then there's another one. So, but that he found all these cases where they were deliberately showing themselves. They're chasing cars down highways.
Yeah, or doing incredible maneuvers for nothing. What are you doing this? Where are you going?
You know what really drove it home for me? I do this full time now, but all my spare time was spent on researching, working full time, and I'd do it on weekends and at night. And I heard about this case in Zimbabwe. I know you know what I'm talking about, the Ariel Elementary School case.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. What a great case. Still one of my favorite cases where the UFOs land next to the playground, ETs come out, talk to a few of the kids. Oh, great case. Now we know there was a teacher who actually saw it too. She did not come forward initially. But I thought, God, that's interesting because there's that case in Australia, the Westall case, 1966, April, right? I thought, wasn't there one in Florida? I had to look it up, Crestview Elementary. 1 month or 1 year to the day after Westall. And I'm like, okay, I'm onto something here. Broadhaven, Wales.
Right.
I remember that one. Same thing, landed behind the school, ETs come out, the kids saw. I love their drawings.
Yeah.
It's so cool. And I thought, okay, there was that other famous case in Michigan at the college, Hillsdale College. Now this is when it cemented it for me because I was looking into that case and I really dug deep. That UFO landed. Not a lot of people know that. This didn't just hover there. It landed by the school. It was there for 2 hours, 87 students, faculty, police saw it. This was there a while. This is another display. Jim and Coral Lorenzen, love those folks. They're our pioneers.
Yeah, absolutely.
APRO,
yeah.
Said, well, gosh, we've got a lot of schoolyard cases. We think this is preparation of some kind. Maybe they're going to openly contact humanity. Raymond Fowler, another hero, the Andreasen affair, Allagash abductions, great, thorough, objective researcher. Love him. He's like, I have 15 cases. This is in April, the 1966. He says, I have 15 cases so far this year. 8 are over schools. So he noticed it. John Keel mentioned it. I'm like, well, these folks knew it long. No one's talking about this.
The Voronezh sighting as well in Russia. That was another one.
Right. And so that was 2 weeks before Westall.
Right. Oh, wow.
And they're saying, oh, it's going to happen again. It did.
Yeah.
So I started looking at this. I'm like, okay, let's dive deep. Because I had my own schoolyard case, a couple of them. A kid was on a Catholic school in Hawthorne, and UFOs came down. He was taken from the playground. And I'm like, okay. I looked through the books. There weren't many cases in the 100 books I had. Let's face it, it's 300. But I started going through the UFO news clipping service, APRO, MUFON, NICAP, QFOS, all those UFO reporting centers. I hit gold. I cried when I started discovering all these cases because this slid under my radar for decades. I'd been a researcher for a pretty long time. And I found over 100 cases. It's now closer to 200 or 300. And these This is so interesting to me because these cases are daytime. They are coming down very low level. They're long lasting. They're putting on a display. Little craft will come out. They'll dart around. Get this. They are landing and or humanoids are being seen in full 1/3 of the cases.
Whoa.
How, landings are relatively rare compared to sightings.
Yeah, daytime landings on top of that.
And half these cases do involve teachers. Half.
Yeah.
Some really interesting aspects. Half the cases are primary schools, elementary. Kids, there's argument. Are kids good witnesses?
Of course they are.
Yeah.
I think they're great witnesses. I think they're better witnesses than most.
Yeah, what I love about mountains, they don't say, "Oh, it's an angel.
No,
it's this, it's
exactly.
that." They're like, "Well, it was shiny.
Yeah.
It was silver."
It's two people you can trust to get the truth is a drunk person or a child.
Yeah.
And
you can tell when kids are lying if you're their parent.
Yeah.
Certainly. But I found so many cases and they were such clear displays.
There's, I don't know if you knew this, but recently, I think George St. Pierre shared a story on his Instagram. George St. Pierre, famous UFC fighter, but he's very much into this topic, and he starting his own podcast. He recently spoke to Paul Trim.
Emily Trim.
Emily Trim's older brother.
Right.
Who was there.
Oh, he was.
And he was much older than the other kids. And he's got a story.
Oh, God bless Emily Trim. So sad that she left us, but
absolutely,
she went forward.
She did. And I think Paul was always pretty reluctant, but I think he's kind of ready to talk about it. And
wow.
So there's I think there's something coming out there that'll be pretty. Yeah, I don't want to go too far into anything in case, I don't want to break the story or say anything. I haven't talked to him. So I would love to talk to him, but I know that George did and Luigi did. Luigi has got a close relationship. He had a close relationship with Emily, for a long time, and Liesel. Still does with Liesel as well.
Yeah,
who was another witness, and she was one of the two girls. Emily and Liesel were the ones that got right up to the full
Remember
on.
the messages they got?
Yeah, same again. Yeah,
stop chopping down the forests. There's a good way to use technology and a bad way. You could do better.
Exactly. Yeah,
is what Emily got.
A big warning against technology, which is wild because in the 90s we're like,
yep.
What
in Zimbabwe?
Like, what are you talking about? Computers? Like, what do you mean? We're playing solitaire on these things? No, it turns out they were right. Technology was a problem, and we're seeing it now.
Yeah. There was another case from Ray Fowler where this UFOs came down over, some school in Massachusetts. That was his hometown. And it was during a football game. This was at night, one of the rare nighttime cases. But a bunch of people saw it. It came down so low over this one woman, she soiled herself.
Oh my gosh.
Blue Book called it Venus, by the way,
mm-hmm.
without doing any investigation. Like Venus is going to make someone, that scared. But that UFO went straight to the nearby college, 3 miles away, and scared the pants off of everyone in the quad there. There's a really interesting timing aspect to these cases. It is exactly like an artist or a book, an author or a musician doing a tour. They go from city to city to city to city.
There's a plan.
Yep. The timing of this is insane if you started to look at it in the locations. I'm like, okay, this is clearly organized. And this is kind of a segue, right? But I started looking, I got this case at work, because we had a high turnover in my office. Terrible place to work. I'm so glad I'm out of there. I was a bookkeeper, basically. I did a full charge bookkeeping, accounting. And they would always bring the new employees to my desk. Oh, Preston's a UFO researcher. If you've got a story, he wants to know.
Oh, wow. How generous of them, then.
Yeah, I got a lot of great cases from there.
I bet.
And Claudia Blasios had this amazing story where she was, a young kid, and they were at the Paramount Drive-In Theater in 1972, I think it was, Southern California. A UFO shows up. I'm thinking, this is unbelievable. I've never heard of anything like this. Comes right down next to the screen. Classic flying saucer, chrome, making a whooshing noise. They first noticed it because suddenly everyone's dropping their drinks, their popcorn, they're running to their cars. Remember the old-fashioned speakers?
Yeah.
People were driving off and ping, they come right off.
Oh, wow.
That's how scared they were, right? And she sees her parents, they're hypnotized, they're looking at this thing. And she's like, oh my God, what's that? And they're like, they stayed there. Some people stayed, some people left. They completely forgot about it. Didn't remember it at all until Claudia and her mother were listening to the radio in the kitchen some years later. Some guy comes on and says, oh, I was at the Paramount drive-in and this UFO showed up and it was right next to the thing and this movie was on. And Claudia turns to her mother, we were there. Do you remember that? Why haven't we talked about this? And her mother's like, oh my God, I don't know. So there's that weird something else going on here. I thought it was a one-off. Like, wow, drive-in theater case. How crazy is that? And then I'm doing UFO research for UFOs over Colorado, this book I'm putting together. And I found one case of UFOs over drive-in theater, Mile High Theater, Dr. Zhivago is on, and this UFO shows up. And I'm going through all the databases and found another. I found 3 in a row. I'm like, well, that's kind of odd. I wonder if there's more of these. So, of course, I scoured the books, found one in Somewhere in the Skies by, oh God, what is his name? Such a good researcher. He's going to kill me. At any rate, there was one there. And I thought, okay, just going through the databases. I hit gold with the UFO news clipping service. There's other news clipping services, the magazines, the journals. I found 100 cases again.
My goodness.
And this is just like the Schoolyard cases in that they're putting on a display.
Yeah, they're seeing a group of people, not too big. It is a controlled size of group of people, right? Because it's not a stadium.
No, it's a captive audience, too. They're all kind of parked.
Yeah.
You can't get out if you're in the center.
That's a really interesting
But these are
piece
at
of
night,
data.
obviously.
Yeah.
But in almost every case, they come right down over the screen or either side. Pete Davenport, Newfork, had an amazing case at a drive-in theater.
Really?
Yeah. And I started looking into these. Same darn thing. They're there for a long time. They're releasing smaller craft. They're darting around. People will flash their lights at it. It flashes back. It's insane. I have to tell you this case because this one, I'm like, oh God, here we go. Cover up, right?
Right.
Because none of these cases were ever declared unexplained by Blue Book, but they knew, and I found the proof. The Terrace Drive-In, 1952, Bakersfield, California. UFO shows up right over the screen. This one's cigar-shaped. They're usually saucer-shaped. But, you get all shapes, eggs-shaped, spheres. Right over the screen, it flashes its lights at the audience. It came, dropped down, flashed the lights, took off. That one was quick in terms of the average sighting. There was 200 or 300 people in the audience. And back then, the press wouldn't ignore you if you were a citizen. But if you were in the military, they'll interview you. There was an officer in the movie audience, and Sheriff Leroy Hatfield starts getting calls from people who'd seen this thing. He's the closest police station to this drive-in. And after the 4th call, he's like, hang up, I'm going to come down there. So not thinking that anyone's going to still be there, but there's 100 people still there, and they're jibber-jabbering about this. And he gets 20 testimonies. They're lining up. They're like, I want to talk about it. He's like, no, I got enough. I know what you saw. They're all describing the same thing.
Wow.
So he writes up this report and sends it to the nearest airbase, which just happens to be Edwards. I found the report. It's marked action in big red letters. And it was sent to 3 places. To the commanding general at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Whoa.
To the head of intelligence at Washington, D.C., to the commander of Ent Air Force Base in Colorado, where we track incoming and outgoing traffic. You can't tell me that they didn't know about this, because I found another case right after that. Same darn thing. They knew from the beginning that this was happening.
What year was that?
52. And this drives me crazy.
Well, I mean, we have proof that they knew. Like, I mean, even if you look at, you're familiar with the what's his name? Wilbur Smith memo?
Yeah.
You know,
Project Magnet. Yeah.
Clear as day in writing. You know, this is the Minister of Transport. He's got, you know, he's pretty high up in the Canadian government. Just got back from the United States and says, all right, number one, flying saucers are real. Get over it. Number two, oh yeah, it's mental. The phenomenon has a mental, you know, component to it. And yeah, number three, Vannevar Bush is, you know, ahead of this and he's working on, like, we have in 1950 a clear outline that, oh, they're not only well aware of it, it seems to be priority right now.
Yeah. And then he drowns.
Yeah.
In a lake under suspicious circumstances.
Yeah.
It's a shame. You know, there's UFO researchers who've met suspicious ends, and certainly a lot of people, whistleblowers. It's a dangerous thing. Leonard Stringfield certainly would talk about that.
Yeah.
Another hero in this field.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love those older researchers.
Yep.
James McDonald, Leo Sprinkle, Jim Coral
John
Lorenzen,
Keel,
Hynek.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of cases from what I'm hearing. And not only are there no shortage of cases, something that I find more fascinating is that you've been able to really hone down on patterns. And those patterns then start giving way to a potential agenda. Is there anything else in the alien agenda that sticks out to you other than they're healing people that can heal and help the world? They are displaying because they want us to know. I guess the part of me that's a little conflicted is there is also what feels to be some type of horrible end for us.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Whether it's coronal mass ejection, whether it's atomic warfare, whether it's, you know, something. There's this doomer sort of looming energy that they're potentially helping us through or hoping that we realize or that we get to that point, right? But if that's the case, why bother saving us? Why bother giving us a light show? Like, what's the point if that's going to happen anyways?
I think that they feel a sense of responsibility, a sense of altruism, perhaps. Why not? I think in some ways they look upon us as their children or friends. Certainly contactees, a lot of them I've talked to feel like, oh, these are my friends, these are my family. And if you saw someone trip down, are you not going to go and help them up? Most people will do that. I do think this is a very common message. Again, they will show people atomic explosions. One guy I talked to, great case, a Navy medic, Kevin Kamen. I love his case because, you know, I got to interview him face to face. I talked to him over and over again. He had this very extensive encounter where he's on a Navy ship, right? 600 feet long. His bunkmate's like, oh, I'm a contactee. And Kevin's like, sure you are. He's like, no, I am. You know, they've taken me around my childhood. I've been on their craft. They took me to their planet. He's like, oh, that's true. I want to meet your little green friends. Direct quote. He's like, I'll arrange it. I'll see. And so he comes back they're still on the ship, right? Somewhere in the Mediterranean, or let me think, outside the Bermuda Triangle.
Okay. In the Atlantic.
In the Atlantic. And this is like 78, thereabouts.
Okay.
I think. At any rate, he comes back a few days later and like, oh, they took me to your house. And Kevin's like, what are you talking about? It's like, oh yeah, you had a shag rug. There's a milkshake stain on the backseat of this car. The colors of the curtains, all correct. 10 years before, not now. So he, like almost a weird time travel aspect. They showed him his house in the past, but it was correct. So now he's thinking, what is this guy? Time travel? Is he CIA? What is going on? And his friend's like, well, they agreed to take you. So they'll be coming in a couple of days. And he's like, okay, sure, they will. A couple of days go by. He shows up. It's like, okay, they're on deck. It's your lunch hour. You know, it's high noon. Their cabin is right near the deck, right? He's a cleric. I know his name. I tried to look him up. I can't find him. It's an unusual name. At any rate, Kevin's like, all right, not thinking anything, right? Goes up on deck, and there's this massive craft. It says it was bigger than the ship. It looked. And it's got flashing colors, and it's just the most beautiful thing he's ever seen. So he does what I always tell someone to do if you see a UFO. Get another witness. If you can get 2 witnesses, that's a credibility to your case. If you can get 10, this is a front page news headline, So he runs to the mess cook, starts shaking his shoulders. Cannot get his attention. It's like he's not even there. And he's freaking out when suddenly he's looking down at the ship and it's getting smaller and smaller. And he realizes he's inside this thing. He's like, oh no, I'm AWOL. And he hears this male voice that says, no, they don't even know you're gone. So he's afraid to turn around now. I'll summarize this a little bit because I could talk.
No, please don't. Please get into as much detail as you want. I'm riveted.
All right. So he's afraid to turn around, right? He's seen metal walls. There's this console, very primitive. A couple of lights on it. That's it. It does almost look like a Star Trek set.
Yeah.
There's just nothing in there.
Like Herbert Schirmer type deal. Yeah. And yeah.
Well, not even that much detail. He had a lot of nothing. This is how people usually describe it. It's kind of what I look for. Empty, right? Nothing in there. Because when they need something, it'll come out of the floor or whatever.
Sure.
And he said it was awfully high. It was like up to my neck. It's like, well, that's a little odd. And so he starts having this conversation with these folks. He's still afraid to turn around, right? And 2 male voices talking to him in perfect, concise English, which, they often do. They'll speak in your own language, usually. And he starts asking all these questions like, where are you from? And he gave me, he said that a holographic star chart appeared. And he could see the solar system and it shrank down and it just got bigger and bigger. And way off in the distance is this blinking red light. And they said, that's our planet. And it's called, and I'm like, well, what is it called? And he gave me this look like, I can't pronounce it. There was a bunch of consonants. I'm like, well, just try. And he went, couldn't do it. I'm like, all right, fine. I asked him, how big was this room? And he gave me this look like, how am I going to explain this to this guy? He's not going to believe me. And he said, honestly, it changed size. The room changed size. I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Here's a detail that I'm giving away. I shouldn't, but because it's kind of one of the things I look for. Because they can do that. So he's asking, well, what do you eat? Are you going to eat me? And they're like, no, you watch too many horror movies. We eat fish, we eat vegetables, we eat the same things you do. He said, did Roswell happen? Because he knows a little bit about UFOs. He wrote a paper as a young kid. And they're like, oh yeah, Roswell happened. And they said, since you started exploding nuclear bombs, this started a countdown clock. And all these events will happen and you cannot stop them. And they showed him a window. And he said it looked real. He said it may as well have been looking out at actual reality, and showed him hurricanes, tornadoes, landslides, earthquakes, just a list of disasters. And they said, all of this will happen. You can't stop it. And this is because you've been messing around with nuclear power. And when you started, you really caught the attention of everyone out here, which makes sense because that's when, the modern age of UFOs began. He asked them about politics. They're like, no, we don't discuss politics. We're not going to go there.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
Smart.
And so he's having this long conversation. Finally, he's like, well, what do you look like? They said, we're not little and we're not green. And sometimes our appearance will scare people. And he's like, well, what do you look like? They said, turn around. And he turns around. He said it was the scariest thing because these were mantids.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, they were sitting on these white kind of throne like chairs, stone, on a dais. I've interviewed this guy over and over again. I finally got him on the radio, so there's a recording out there. Because he was very...
This was the skeptic. Initially, right? No, he was...
Yeah. I mean, he knew UFOs were real.
Yeah, but the other guy who told him, oh, you're going to have it, he was like, well, brush it off, poppycock. There's no way.
Exactly. So now he's a military guy. He used, is it okay to swear?
Yeah.
He said, I nearly shit my pants.
Yeah.
Is what he said.
Oh my God.
And so, a few more events happened. I did kind of gloss over some. They took him to his hometown in Kankakee, Illinois, and showed him his mother working as a school teacher, which she did. It was daytime there, so the time wasn't quite aligning. she's writing on this. She was at a religious school and writing on the chalkboard phrases from the Bible and stuff. And then they showed him his father, who worked at a bank, looked through several rooms into the center of where he was having an executive meeting and tells him, your parents were good people. They did a good job with you. And he's thinking, what? You know me? You know my parents? So this is really like, oh my God, this is very... They showed him as a little kid. Then they showed him what looked to him like a bombing range. He's thinking, where is this? This is Arizona. What's going on? But it was gray. And then they come over the horizon, and there's the Earth off in the distance. And that's when he said, I nearly shit my pants, because he realized that they're over the moon right now.
Well,
told you they do this. They will show people the moon. So at any rate, he turns around. This is towards the end of his experience, and they're praying mantis. And one gets up off the dais and takes 3 steps and is right next to him. And he says, Preston, they were 15 feet tall. Now I'm trying to talk him down because, people can exaggerate.
It's very tall.
Yeah, he's 6'2", or he passed, unfortunately. But he's like, look at me. You see how tall I am. I'm like, yeah. He says, they were more than twice my height. It was like standing next to a basketball hoop and backboard.
Yeah.
This thing's looking down at me. And he was trembling. His was a very benevolent experience. They didn't even examine him.
Just scary.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons.
And they said, would you like to go to our planet? And he said, no. Okay. I'm still mad at him. Put it that way. And he said they reached out and grabbed his shoulder. He got a really good look at their hands, which weren't, normal. They were claw-like. And
claw-like?
Yeah.
Were they like...
not so much like I've heard from other people, not like that.
Because you hear that a lot.
Yeah, but they had very long arms, he said. And one sort of section here and one section here. Put their hand on his shoulder. I'm like, why didn't you say yes? He's like, listen, I felt like a bug next to them.
Right.
I thought I was going to end up in some alien zoo.
Yeah, or stew.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, he's like, this was scary. You got to understand that. Yeah, I guess so. You never know how you're going to react.
No.
Just don't.
I mean, you'd like to think that you'd keep your marbles about you and your wits about you, but the truth is that you're probably going to have a visceral, terrifying reaction to whatever it is you're seeing.
I never did.
You didn't, but you also had decades of preparation.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that.
Knowledge overcomes fear every time.
Yeah.
That's why I do this research. People deserve to know.
I'm gonna share with you something, though. I want to share with you something that I'm not going to...
All right, well, let me just end the story.
Yes,
it's
please.
one more sentence.
Sure, yes.
He wakes up. He's on his cot. He's sweating. He's hyperventilating. His friend whips open the curtains like, so, how did you like your ride? Grinning from ear to ear. He was furious. He ended the friendship with this guy and forgot a lot of this. He forgot a lot of the experience until he's watching a praying mantis show on TV and it comes flooding back. And he said all these disasters, a lot of them did occur, including a motorcycle accident that they showed him. And he thought he actually died in this accident, but no, he didn't. He got a bad concussion. They showed him this and he remembered it right as it happened. But yeah, he's a good case. He's a twin. His twin brother had encounters. There's a twin aspect. Okay, sorry. I hope I didn't.
No, yeah. No, this is super. I'm specifically fascinated by the mantids cases. The human-looking ones as well, all of them really, but the mantis ones seem
so interesting.
So interesting because they have this air of this sort of royalty about them for some reason. Like there seems to be
people wear purple cloaks sometimes.
Yeah, cloaks, capes. Like they're always in the back. They're never at the forefront. Like there seems to be like, okay, we'll have the small grays, the humanoids, the tall grays, but then way back here behind the curtain, you got like these overseers, what seems like. And I'm not sure what that is, whether they're just like an older species, a more ancient and wise species, or like...
Talk to Dolly about this. She says yes.
It's the gestalt that I have from, here. I follow an account. I think I only follow one account on TikTok, and it's this one. It's Mantid Encounters.
Yeah.
And it's just that, right? It's just these encounters. And
I've had it. Yeah, they presented a couple of my cases.
Really? Yeah, I think it's so interesting. The one thing that is kind of elusive with this is, first of all, a lot of these cases with the mantids happen psychedelically, right? And so it obviously puts like a negative filter on, did that really happen? You know, are these
I'm
just...
not a fan of it.
Yeah, do you know
personally.
what I mean? But you hear a lot of that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
These bug-like creatures. There's a case in Montreal, and it's a case eventually that we'll dive into on this channel as I'm working with the witness and trying to... So this witness had an encounter and called the police in the middle of the night because her dog, you know, woke her up squealing, like just giant dog, big
Animal reactions.
Doberman.
Yep.
Yeah, just oop, like this weird sound. She's like, what the heck is that? And goes out, dog's frozen. Like she starts taking pictures of the dog. She's like, this is weird. My dog, you know, just like this in the kitchen, 1:30 in the morning. And her door was slightly ajar due to them, they're like replacing the lock or something in their apartment. And so there's the apartment complex hallway outside of that. And she kind of sees like a figure moving and she goes, what is that? You know, she's kind of intrigued. And as she moves close to the door, she asks it, hey, you want to come forward? And she starts snapping pictures. Boop, 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 boop,
Wow.
boop, boop, boop. Ends up seeing this thing, maybe this tall, very strange encounter.
The mantid?
It wasn't exactly a mantid. So it's like, I'll show you the photo, and I don't want to put it up. And the reason is I do not have permission. So I won't put it up. But eventually, hopefully you'll see this. I'm working with the witness now, and who knows, you know, maybe this whole section gets cut. But she's trying to like talk to it in different languages, in Romanian, in English, in French. And she's like trying to communicate, are you good? Are you bad? If you're good, please come forward. If you're not a demon, like she's religious at the time. And it comes and it starts like moving its mouth like this, and it's got a big head, big eyes. It has two things hanging here, like meat. She said,
Wow, that's unusual.
and arms like this with a separate set of arms.
Oh,
and some type of carapace or some type of something on the back, and it was like
I've not heard that.
light skinned with like dots, like very strange. And she takes a bunch of pictures, and then she describes slipping into a dream. She's like, I slipped into a dream. After this, I woke up. It's now 4 a.m. I've lost several hours. She's not into UFOs, by the way, at all. Like she didn't want to be
Poor
any,
thing.
you know what I mean?
That's got to be so shocking.
Well, so she was afraid, but then she was also like, she's like, I was excited, like a kid in a candy store at one point. And she's like, I didn't feel like my apartment, even though it was my apartment. She's like, I don't know why. It just, maybe I was in their ship or something. I don't know.
That's a psychological response, I think.
Yeah, maybe dissociation.
Yeah.
And anyway, she wakes up, the dog's in bed, the thing's no longer there, and she runs and wakes her husband up, and they call the police. And the police, and she's like, I wouldn't have called the police if I didn't have the photos. She's like, you think I was crazy? You know, and so she didn't want to talk about it for a decade because she's like, oh, this is a demon.
That's still a popular theory that this is demonic. People will say, oh, well, how come they go away if you invoke the name of Jesus? I'm like, well, if you came to me and you started saying, in the name of Jesus, go away. You know what? I will give you your, I'll respect that.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Well,
by the way, we're at 2 hours already. We're just going to keep going. But whenever you feel like, hey, I'm spent, let me know. I could talk to you for days.
Well, that's not going to happen. So.
Okay. Well, let's go.
I'll try to be good. Yeah. Whistleblowers.
Okay.
There's a few people I've talked to. I'm like, gosh, we're not hearing the vast majority of stuff that's going on in government circles.
Okay.
There was this guy I interviewed, Ray Sachs. He's getting elderly. A lot of the whistleblowers I've talked to are wanting to do their part for disclosure because they're getting old. And I can tell you most major researchers have these kinds of accounts. And it's always a blessing when someone comes forward to you with credentials, which you can basically fact check. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people have stories, and a story is a story.
Yeah.
But this guy, Ray Sachs, I verified his employment. I did my due diligence to the extent that you can. A young man, 1971, he's on the USS Clamagore. This is a submarine, and it had nuclear-tipped torpedoes, which this was not publicly known at the time, going up the east coast of the United States, some miles offshore, at about 12 knots. They're on the surface. He's electrician's mate, I think, on this Clamagore, right? Young man. And he's up there with another petty officer, And the commander, I know who it is. I looked, Commander Boyne, God bless you, but you covered this up. So I'm calling you out on this. He's passed. So, and the second in command. So there's 4 men up there, and this submarine's booking along at 12 knots when a USO, unidentified submersible object, comes in at over 100 knots from the stern at an angle and starts pacing the Clamagore. Right off, anything within a quarter mile is considered a near miss at sea.
Sure.
And this was right up, meters away, feet. So totally silent. And the guy I interviewed, Ray Sachs, his job is to be in touch with the folks that's in the sonar office. And so the commander's like, what are they seeing? And he said, they're not seeing anything. There's no evidence of this thing. It was a big, white, round light just under the water. They couldn't see any solid object, but something's there, and it's not far away. And it was, what did he say, like 20, 30 feet across? Big. And they're all looking at it, and he's jibber-jabbering with the other. He's like, maybe it's Captain Nemo. Didn't think that was funny, the commander. And so they're talking. The second in command's like, just shut up. We're looking at this thing. And so they're all watching it. And one by one, the higher-ranking officers come up on deck because they want to see it too. This is just kind of like, I want to see it.
Yeah.
And it paced this Clamagore, he said, for about 10 or 15 minutes. And everyone went below, and there's still them 4. And it darts off at like 80 knots. This is faster than our submarines can go.
Of course.
Even unofficially, because I've talked to some submariners, and we definitely can go faster than most people think, but not that fast.
No, and 80 knots, that's equivalent to 80 to 100 miles an hour, essentially. Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I've done a lot of research into USOs, and I've got cases where they're moving underwater as fast as people see it in the sky.
Yeah.
Zipping.
Not disturbed by friction.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they're probably partly interdimensional or something. Force field, I don't know. We can only speculate. And I don't like to speculate in this field because you're right off the deep end in seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But he saw this. But to me, this is another clear-cut case of them showing their interest or warning people about
nuclear capability.
Yeah. I'm like, did anything else strange happen? He's like, yeah, sure did. We were underwater and the engine went out. This can't happen. They've got backups. They were completely dead in the water. Scared the living daylights out of everyone. And then it all went back on. They didn't see anything, didn't hear anything. Just, what is that? Crazy. And he was on other ships and stuff, and nothing happened until he got close to that nuclear stuff. I often think of that case because it's just another example. There was another guy, Dr. Gary Wagoner, was on the USS Long Beach on the other side of Catalina Island. Nuclear powered.
Yeah, very, very a big hotspot as well.
Yeah. And they had UFOs show up. Probably 2 other cases. I love these cases. One guy on his deathbed. My heart, oh my God, these people. I'm just like, what an honor. He says, I need to tell you this story. He says, I was a subcontractor at Edwards Air Force Base. I'm like, ding, 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 Edwards. If you research Edwards, it's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I did. I wrote UFOs over California, and it's got everything that you could learn everything you wanted to know about UFOs from just researching Edwards. That's how extensive the activity there is. And so I'm like, oh my God, okay, go on. And he proved his case to me because he had the lingo. I mean, he knew what he was talking about. I verified to the extent that I could his employment. He's like, yeah, they use us because we cut through all the red tape. They don't need any official things. The funding, they just hire people who are not part of the military. And they're like, we need you. He wouldn't tell me what he does. But he's walking across the tarmac there, and here's this buzzing noise. Very low, whispery kind of whooshing noise. And turns and looks, and there's a hangar with a big open window. And there's a UFO. Perfect, shiny, mirror-like, size of a little sports car, hovering right above the ground. And he's like, oh my God, and turns to his employer and says, look, what is that? His employer gets white as a sheet, jams his finger up against his lips and shut up. Didn't even speak, wouldn't talk. And he kept asking, like, what is it? What is it? He's like, you shut up now. You weren't supposed to see that. If you start talking about this, we're both in trouble. So that's where it rested for a while. A couple of years go by, and his employer calls him again. It's emergency. We need you. You're the only one who can do this. Please. He's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to work for you unless you tell me what we saw. So they get into what he's called a pissing match. Mm-hmm. And finally he's like, okay, let's go to a bar, someplace discreet, and had a couple of beers. And he says, if you ever tell anybody, this is trouble for me and you. So he waited decades. This was like late 1980s, I think he said, when this occurred. And his employer said, what you saw was not a UFO. This is reverse engineered from ET technology using the concept of counter-rotating magnetic fields. We can create a magnetic field on the outside of the craft, which propels the craft in the desired direction. That's all I'm telling you. So,
whoa.
Interesting, right?
That makes sense with Edwards Air Force Base. I'll tell you that. There's so much testing and stuff going on there. I don't even doubt that most of the sightings that happen out there are just all us.
Yep. And one more case, Mel Hansen, God bless him, older guy. He's like, well, Malmstrom, he reached out to a number of researchers. I'm like, yeah, not interested. I'm like, he reached out to me. I'm like, Malmstrom? Because I know Malmstrom.
Yep.
March 1967, they shut down the missiles. Those are all independent systems. Robert Salas, of course, his book, Faded Giant. Great guy. So glad he came forward.
Mm-hmm.
So Mel Hansen saw this on Unsolved Mysteries, I think it was. He's like, oh, well, I guess I can talk about it. So he says he was there. Again, not military, a subcontractor. He maintains the missile bases. They were at one of the sites. Again, he had the lingo down. Like, this guy was for real. You never know for sure, do you? But you do your due diligence to try to fact check everything to the extent you can. And he sounded legit to me. And he was the supervisor. His team was underground doing maintenance when the stars started disappearing over the missile site. He's like, I don't know. I can't tell you how big this thing was or how high up, but there was something above the missile. And it shut down. And he says, it immediately went back online. He said there was this eerie silence right before. Really eerie, just everything ghostly quiet, the Oz effect kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And stars start disappearing. The missile shuts down. Now, there's backups. We would hope so. There is. I think he said it went to diesel power because it's electric. And the diesel generator went on and it all went back on site. That went out. And then it went back on the third, or I guess it would be the second backup, which was battery. And that went down. So boom, boom, boom. They knocked it out very much intentionally.
Mm-hmm.
And it moved off, and it was still knocked down. They're an hour away from Malmstrom. These are very widely separated areas. So he's radioing, and he's like, something happened. They're like, we're on our way. We'll be there in less than an hour. We'll pick you up. Took him and his team. His team didn't see anything. Just him and the security guard, who was like just losing his mind and didn't want. They told him, don't go out. Don't get out of this Jeep. You are to remain in the Jeep. Because this thing was still there.
Yeah.
And he got out and looked at it. Goes back to the base, and they gave him the riot act. Basically a full day of this didn't happen, this didn't happen, this didn't happen. So an amazing case. And another witness to this. There's a bunch of witnesses that are still coming out for the Malmstrom case.
Yeah, I mean, most nuclear facilities have, especially when you have any type of warhead or any type of weapon of mass destruction, I feel like there's a lot of activity around those places. Like, obviously,
thank God.
I'm thinking, I'm thinking UFO and nukes, how many cases are in that? It was like 116 or something, or individuals who've come out and talked about that stuff. We have next week here, I got Mario Woods coming. Mario Woods, are you familiar with his case?
Not off the hand, no.
Yeah, he was a senior staff sergeant, I believe, and he was working at one of these facilities housing nukes, and he was a security officer, and an orb the size of a Walmart, as he put it, comes right down over the silo and like opens it up, and like things are turning on now, boop, 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 and everything's going live, like this thing's going to launch. And he's thinking to himself, literally the thought that he had that he told me is like, I thought I have to drive my truck into the hole. So to like trigger some failsafe to get this nuke to stop from launching.
Wow.
Like that's how panicked he was, you know? And then,
it's a clear cut
missing time.
Stop playing with nukes.
Yeah. Missing time. And then also ET interaction through that. And this guy's like the most, like, again, these people work around these facilities are, if you take so much as an aspirin, you have to write it down. Like these are people with all their wits about them. Their mental faculty is constantly checked because you have to be a very sane, very normal, very psychologically balanced person to work anywhere around these facilities, and you are monitored like a hawk. And 100%. So, yeah, if you're looking for a credible witness, look no further than the people who work at these places, because that is their entire life, is being a credible witness.
Yeah. One guy wouldn't talk to me. I had to do it through a medium. You know, basically he would tell me. So it's a completely hearsay story.
Right.
But he worked at an underground base in Alaska. They gave him sodium pentothal, hypnotism.
No way.
Every single week, so they could know every single thing he did. He got out of it. They said they pulled him out of high school. He had fantastic scores on his SAT. He was
bred.
The field of knowledge that they were looking for. And he wouldn't tell me what his job was, but he said this was a base in Alaska that was 7 stories down. They worked on 3 things: sensing devices that can see through solid objects, biological warfare that what we know is nothing, and electromagnetic devices that are reverse engineered from ET craft. And that most of what people are seeing in that area is not ET. I learned very early on, some guy told me, he's like, you need to know that most of what people are seeing, not most, he said like 20, 30%. But Michael Schratt is now telling me, no, it's closer to 70%.
Wow.
What people are seeing is, us. So, yeah.
Do you think that there is an imminent human invasion that'll be sort of hoaxed in our lifetime?
Oh, the false flag?
Yeah.
I sure hope not, but yeah.
You do think that that's a possibility? How high is your conviction on a percentage scale that that's going to happen within our lifetime?
Oh, God. I couldn't give you an exact number, but...
Over 50?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm worried about it. I think we're seeing signs of it. I feel like our government is pushing a fear threat narrative.
Militarization.
And the media certainly is very fear-based.
Yeah.
So they love a scary story, but I don't know. This is not my area of expertise, but ETs have basically said this. They've told people this. So I'm worried about it. I've got so many down ET stories from people. Like a lady saw a 15-foot praying mantis while out jogging.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. Or a lady I worked with saw this little alien statue on my desk. Screams, like, what's that? I'm like, Connie, what do you think it is? It's an alien. She's like, well, I saw one of these when my son was a newborn. There's that weird connection to,
children
are pregnant and a little bit. She said this thing tried to open her window. It's a fixed window. It did not walk through the wall. It's looking at her little baby in a crib, trying to open the window. It woke her up, this kind of squeak, squeak sound. She sits up in bed. It looks at her, slams her down in bed. She can't move. She can't cry out. After 3 minutes, it walks off. She jumps out of bed, scoops up her baby and tells her husband, something was at the window. That's a monster. We're getting out of here. And he's like, you just had a dream. She's like, I must know a dream. That was not a dream. She went to her mother's. She wouldn't come back for 2 weeks. She said, I'm not coming back unless we get guard dogs. And they did. And she's like, we have to move. I'm not staying here. I mean, that's how badly it affected her. She's like, I worked with this lady for quite a while. And she must, I don't, preach. Like, I'm a UFO researcher. So I'm not at work,
Yeah.
But she saw that little statue that my boss had given me.
It just triggered. And it was a statue of a mantis?
Little gray.
Little gray.
Yeah.
Oh.
Gray. But yeah, the lady who saw a mantis was a teacher. And she goes out jogging at 3 a.m. and she's in Fallon, Illinois. This is right around the time the Chicago O'Hare incident happened. So you can date that. Was it
2006?
Yeah. And O'Fallon, Illinois is a pretty country town. And she comes up to the T intersection, Kyle Avenue. I'll never forget it. She described it. I looked it up on Google. It was all correct what she was saying. And she sees what she thought's a man on stilts walking down the middle of the street. This is at like 4 a.m.
Oh my God. The horrific image of a man on stilts, I think, is more terrifying.
With extensors on his arm.
Yeah.
And so it walks right into the streetlight. I saw the streetlight.
Whoa.
And she said this thing came up more than half the street. So she knew how tall it was.
Whoa.
And she's like, it's 15 feet if it's, anything.
They seemed...
a mantis.
Yeah.
It had those little things. It's big triangular head, eyes the size of basketballs. Oh, that's what Kevin Cameron said. They told him they speak any language on Earth easily. They know that our governments do have ET technology. They told him all kinds of stuff.
They're like way more advanced.
Yeah.
There was a tale of another military guy who said that he overheard, he was at Area 51 and he overheard someone in their conversation saying, yeah, keep the humans out. The mantids don't like them. And so whatever that means. And he was like, he came out and said, like, I don't know anything, but I heard that,
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I don't like a lot of humans myself.
Yeah. I wouldn't like those humans either.
And I love people, but
sure.
Man, some of the folks on Earth are so
messed up here. That doesn't make the mantids evil. It makes whoever they're working with.
I told you before, I'm worried about how, I hate to blame, use the term governments because.
Sure.
But the way we're being treated is not okay.
Yeah.
Our government should have our best interests in mind. And I don't see that sometimes.
They do not. Yeah.
So I'm concerned about it. But.
I think the individuals who make up the government are 99% really good people or believe that they're good people or, but I think that they're very 1%, poisons the well, because when we use broad terms like the government, I know people who work for the clerical,
they're wonderful people.
And doing paperwork and just, doing whatever. People work for the government. There's transport.
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole, the government does do things that are just normal too. But lumping them all in together, there is, like you said earlier on, there's a cabal at the very top that is unobjectively evil.
Done right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no morals there.
No.
And so when ETs say, don't like them, I think that they're very much aware of what we're doing. I think that they're aware of every darn one of us on this planet. I really do. And, I love finding patterns in strange cases. The high strangeness. Here's high strangeness for you.
Let's go.
This ET phone calls. Thinking this is...
like an ET calling someone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm interviewing this guy from upstate New York. Doesn't want his name used. I think his first name was Kenneth. I'll go that far.
Okay.
Full on, doesn't like this stuff. He had missing time. It's very traumatic for him. They ended up pulling him on board, showing him his hybrid child. I'm like, isn't this great? And he's like, no. What? Horrified and loving this child at the same time.
Yep.
So really, really hard for him. He's a nurse. At any rate, right before this happened, he's driving along and his phone starts ringing, his cell phone, in a way that he's got a song set up for when it rings, music. It's not doing that. It's going bleep, 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 bleep. And it says no number. And he's just ignoring it. And it keeps going. Finally, he answers it. And he hears all these clicks, 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 clicks. That time is coming in this weird voice. Not a normal voice. And he kept getting these weird phone calls. And my mind starts thinking, oh my God, Bud Hopkins, his case with Debbie Jordan Caldwell.
Yeah, right.
The Wednesday night phone calls. Wait, Ray Fowler, Betty Andreasen, she had this too. These weird phone calls. She had lots of clicks and L's and T's and I'm like, oh my God. I started digging Jack Sarfati, the physicist.
The famous call from the future or whatever that was. Yeah.
So I found all these cases, which, this fits in because ETs are electromagnetic effects.
Sure.
I recently looked at a case where this guy saw a UFO on TV. The image came up. ET's coming out. 1 week later, that happened to him. A lady in upstate New York saw a gray on ET on the television.
Yeah.
It was coming through that. I was at a convention once. This guy comes up to me. He's like, "You're going to think I'm crazy." I was in my house. The TV screen comes on and shows the interior of a UFO. Little grays walking around. So he runs up to get his parents. Can't get them to wake up. Running through the house. He's looking at the TV, losing his mind. Looks out the window. There's the UFO hovering overhead. Goes back to the TV and it fades away. She's like, "Have you ever heard of anything like that?" I'm like, "No, I sure haven't." Well, I have now. So, yeah, they can affect electromagnetic instruments in ways that are ET contact can happen in a variety of ways.
What about the Ashtar command? Not buying it?
I'm on one side of the fence.
Yeah, that's fine. I just mentioned it because it did, fit into this.
I mean, there's a crazy pattern. They found a bunch of cases of UFOs hovering over prisons.
Oh, really?
Landing next to it, ET's coming out. One guy pulled from his jail cell, put back in.
Oh, that must have been a good day for him.
It was for a while. Yeah. I don't know why they didn't just take him out.
Yeah.
Go, run.
Just on the other side of the wall.
Put him back in. He was in. I talked to him personally.
Wow.
He spoke French. I speak French. Well, I can speak. I can't understand it.
Sure.
I took it for 8 years. So if you speak real slowly, I can. But he spoke in a way that I just couldn't get it. And the recording wouldn't come out. So mad. But he was in jail for smoking marijuana.
Oh.
Which now it's like...
What a terrible offender.
Yeah.
Lock him up for life.
Yeah. And they put him in his house. Or in some... Yeah, I think it was his house.
Yeah.
I never got to record, transcribe the interview, so I can't really use it.
Yeah, sure.
If you're not going to let me record you and, it's...
Yeah, you can't.
I can't use it.
Yeah.
Because I have to have proof that I at least talked to this person.
Of course, yeah, it's minimal journalism.
But yeah, Colorado prison, they visited 3-4 times. I got cases of them landing, the humanoids.
Tell me about some of those. I want to hear about maybe just like one or two, because these ones fascinate me as well, is the ones that look like us, that are among us.
Yeah.
That you hear about, that kind of just blend in. People don't seem to see them. And then somebody goes, "Oh, you look strange." And then they talk to them in their minds and go, "She can see us. Oh my God." Or have you had some of those people call in or hit you up?
In terms of ETs walking on Earth among us.
Yeah, people who've had encounters with those.
I've certainly gotten human-looking encounters. But in terms of walking among us, I'm sure I have. I'm trying to think of one.
But like human-looking ones, like you're speaking of, those are on board?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've had a few where people are like, "No, I was, at a grocery store and, they were wearing just the most beautiful garb."
So I do know about a whole bunch of them where people, like John Hunter Gray and his son, Richland Center, Wisconsin, had a full-on abduction. I don't like that term. Sorry. Onboarding encounter. I stopped using it because I was offending people. I call them onboarding experiences. And they felt it was friendly anyway. So,
yeah.
But prior to their onboard experience, they're at a gas station. He remarked on this as being connected. There's this little guy, 4 feet tall, wearing a fisherman's cap, covers everything. Gloves. It's a hot day. Glasses. You can't see anything, right? And they could see his eyes through the glasses, and he had beady little eyes. And they're, contactees will almost always mention the eyes. The eyes, the eyes, the eyes. So he's like, "Who is this? Why? This guy, he's so weird. He's staring at us. This is crazy." So they go away from the gas station. This guy follows them. I think it was in a VW Bug. All the way, turns off. That's when their car stalls. That's when the UFO lands. And that's when they're taken on board.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, was it Debbie Jordan Cobble? Met the ET on the bus. People have seen them in restaurants.
Ingo Swann has that one famous case.
Grocery store,
Yeah. There was Richard Dolan shared a few with me as well.
Timothy Good.
Yeah. And then I had one. I actually emailed this guy back just yesterday. But he told me about, it was a hardware store, 2 very tall, 6'9", 6'10" women, beautiful twins, dressed identical, walking in lockstep in a hardware. The most insane thing. And nobody turned their heads.
Hans Holzer, he wrote a book about UFOs. He's got this, it's a pseudonym, Shane Kerrs, a student who was walking to school. This is Westmoreland High School in New York. It's funny I can remember these details because the UFO stuff just sticks in me.
Yeah.
But at any rate, this guy approaches her, and he's weird looking. He's got this white, thin, blonde hair, pale skin, large, dark eyes, weird clothes. She couldn't describe him. She was too kind of like, who is this freak, is how she put it.
Yeah.
Starts asking all these weird questions, like, where are you going? What are you going to do in there? What's volleyball? Just off the wall questions. And she's like, he's a creep. And he said, well, come with me. Come see my white car in the field. She's like, I'm not going with you. And starts to walk away, turns around. He's gone. There's nowhere to go. Her friends come running up to her like, who is that weird guy? And she's like, I have no idea. This is right in front of the school. It's like 3 weeks later, she sees him in the liquor store and he's staring at her. Same guy. And she rushes out. Of course, shortly after that, taken on board, there he is. Ended up, it was a pretty traumatic encounter for her. Where I think they had intimate relations. But makes you wonder, because I've looked into these cases. There was a guy I interviewed. He saw this, what looked like a gray on a bus. And I've come to look for like 3 things. Their behavior is unusual, their appearance is unusual, and their clothes are unusual. And this thing was, and they'll talk to you telepathically.
That happens a lot. Yeah, that's what you hear most is just this clear sort of, oh my God, she can see me.
Yeah. He pulled his chapter. I gave him, whenever I write about someone, I send them their chapter. I'm like, and he fact checked it. And I'm like, okay, we're going to publish a book. He's like, I want to pull out. I'm like, oh, really? Why? Whatever. That's his prerogative, certainly.
Yeah.
But I was so disappointed because I had worked so hard interviewing him and getting everything right. That's fine. I'm not going to blame him because it's a big deal.
Super strange, too, for someone to go through life having to acknowledge that versus not having to. Very enticing to do the latter, I think, for a lot of people. And I think rightfully so for some people. Some people are just, hey, I don't want to make my life about this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a person. I have a family. I have relationships. I have a job. I need to do these things. And so for me to derail all of that because of one happenstance that perhaps I shouldn't have even been a part of doesn't make sense. And I can't blame people for that.
I blame the government.
Yeah.
Again, in quotes.
For not allowing, exactly. For
basically
the ridicule.
Delegitimizing this whole subject.
Yeah. And done so clinically.
Yeah. And effectively.
Yeah.
I bought it.
Yeah.
And I thought I was a smart, no. I absolutely bought into it.
Yeah. Now it's this term of they're in our airspace with impunity. That term I'm kind of sick of hearing.
Now, whose airspace for one thing? Because they were here first.
Yeah. Our airspace, our sovereign airspace.
Yeah. I don't think they present a danger to aviation either.
No.
They're like, they come around our crafts and it could be dangerous. I'm like, well.
Yeah, we could have collisions. I'm like, well, please, let's have one. let's acknowledge a collision then, if they're flying around there with the amount of...
I looked into it. I found a few cases of people who hit UFOs with their car or ran over an ET. There's a few. Mm-hmm. But statistically speaking, it's insignificant. It's less than 1%.
Yeah, there's a few Mexican pilots.
That one where the UFO on top and
on the sides, yeah. And it damaged his landing gear.
I think that plane was going to go down.
Yeah.
And they're like, he'll take you. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I wondered about that.
Yeah, there's the other guy too, Carlos, forget his last name, but he was it was his first solo flight that he was doing.
Oh.
And he got commandeered by like some channeling entity, and then they recorded that call or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's got a whole bunch of missing time there. Didn't know, like, his fuel tank was full by the time he landed, and like this
Crazy.
whole super mysterious.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack with this field. I'm really glad it's moving towards mainstream. I don't think we'll ever get disclosure. I think what we're seeing now is for one reason only. The secret government, that's what I'll call them, is losing control of the narrative. Now there's an army of researchers out there. There's an army of experiencers. The evidence is mountainous. If they don't come forward and say this is real, they're ridiculous. They look not credible, unbelievable. They're irrelevant.
Yeah.
And frankly, I have zero sympathy. They dug their own grave. Here's the way I look at disclosure to me is show us the Roswell craft. Show us the bodies. We know you got them. We're not seeing that. And until and unless they will admit to the Capitol flyover of 1952, 52, until unless they'll admit to Malmstrom and Roswell and any of a dozen high-profile cases that we know are real, I don't want to hear what you have to say. You are lying. I don't need lying liars to tell me what I already know is true. And there's a case from Virginia, Donald Shallcross. I love this case. UFO lands, human-looking ETs come out, and he's like, oh my God, has this conversation with them. He says, why don't you just disclose? And they gave him a look like, we already have. That's what they told him. We already have. And I think that that's true. They've done their part. This UFOs over
the ETs have.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
This hometown series I put together proves that basically they've visited everywhere on this planet. You can name any town. And I don't want to say any, but so far I'm batting 100%. They've been there. That's disclosure. They've shown themselves pretty much everywhere on this planet. So come on. How much information do you need to know this is real? It's my feeling that anyone who's objectively examines the evidence, and I'll underline that objectively, and looks at it for a day, can only come away convinced. And for those debunkers and skeptics out there, I'm like, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but you haven't done your homework. You have not done your research. I mean, they're like, well, why don't they show themselves to presidents and leaders of state and senators? They have. Absolutely. I did a whole article in my Not From Here books, Take Me to Your Leader. Because, they showed themselves to Senator Russell, Governor Gilligan of Ohio, the guy from Arizona.
Also the president of Kalmykia. My buddy Jesse Michaels, went out there, and he's a contactee. Like
Ilyan Ilzamanov.
Yeah, an onboarder, as you'd put it.
And a major chess champion, too, by the way.
Yeah, the head of FIDE, or at one point, yeah.
Yeah, but the Mexican president, the Brazilian president, a bunch of them.
As of today, the Japanese government is coming out as well, and no coincidence, Jesse's over there covering that story right now, but they're coming out and saying that they're going to start releasing things.
It's time. It's past time.
I think it's good that these other countries are taking a lead. I think that sets precedent, because if nothing else, it will entice, the government that's been covering this stuff up to at least divulge something. Because if everybody else comes forward with really credible information, I mean, what other choice do you have? You have to be on top of this, right?
Sooner or later, a whistleblower is going to break out with the actual hard proof.
Yeah.
I think disclosure is inevitable for one simple reason. It's true. This is all true. You can hide the truth. You can distort it. You can lie about it. You can play around with it. But you can never destroy it. Truth is truth.
Yeah.
And there's just no way you can hide something forever.
Well put.
But certainly hope so.
We got questions from the audience, Preston, we got to get to. So I'm going to go turn that camera on. Give me one second.
Let's go.
Did we run the gamut?
Yeah.
Have we hit everything? Almost. We did discuss OBEs. What haven't we discussed on your list? I'm just curious.
Bigfoot and UFOs over graveyards.
Oh, great. Wonderful. We'll bring that up. But before we do, as a member, one of the many perks here is the potential to have one of your questions answered on air by our guests. And they always submit, as you probably know, these audiences
they're sharp.
Oh, it's just such a great collective sea of knowledge that they ask better questions than I could ever ask. Ooh, okay. Tess is going right for the jugular.
Now I'm worried.
Of the contact cases you've studied, which are most likely to be psyops and to what end?
Oof. Well, let me think about this for a second. I would say that case of he won't let me use his name, a Marine officer, joined the Marines at 17, had to get a parent's voucher, went to Pendleton, and they set him up. They had some guy come to his office, and there were papers on the desk that were all about UFOs that were fully confidential, and just led him down the garden path to where he was taken and shown this UFO, and ended up bringing out a reptilian officer who was like 7 feet tall. And everyone, he says, they told him, don't break ranks. Whatever happens, don't break ranks. He was the only one who didn't break rank. And this thing came right up to him and stared at him. I'm like, what did it look like? This poor man started weeping. And I'm like, it's okay. If you don't want to talk about this, that's fine. He's like, no, I really want to talk about it. He says, I can't tell you what he looked like because I couldn't look. I was too afraid. But it had reptilian eyes and skin and all. And diving into his case, because he had a great experience as a child. He levitated. He was taken on board repeatedly. He had all this psychic ability going on. Amazing guy. He was very altruistic. He worked at a welding factory and got everyone there raises, basically because they were gypping these people. He was Latino, and they were basically taking advantage of the Latino people who worked there. And after talking to him, he basically said they experimented on me. They psyoped me. Why? I can't tell you for sure, other than to sort of paint this as a negative experience. They killed his dog. He said, that was it for me. I think they're demonic. He became very religious and had an encounter that I don't even know what to think about because it's just so, I don't know.
You think it was MILAB stuff?
Yeah, it was not okay. But here's an interesting thing, which I didn't bring up, because he worked as a welder, right? He kept knocking that welding machine off, offline. This is a very, very expensive machine. They said, we need you to go to the doctor. You're destroying our equipment. And they couldn't figure out anything wrong with him, except they did find an implant in his body. But I've talked to so many people who've had this problem. They're knocking out TVs.
Yeah.
And, one lady, she had her encounter with this little silver-suited humanoid. This is Mount Rainier, Washington. Goes to work, knocks out her computer. She's like, IT guy, come here. Goes to the copier, knocks that out. And she's like, as soon as you're done, copier. Goes to the fax machine back when we had those, knocks that out. And she's like, I don't know what's going on. I finally figured it out. I think they're basically energizing or elevating our bioelectric field, rather. Because people will knock out light bulbs.
Yeah.
The guy I was talking to says, you wouldn't believe my light bulb budget. He was investigated by Thelma Moss, and they're like, he gave him the light bulbs, her. And they're like, well, it didn't explode, it imploded. Whatever,
Wild.
But yeah, people have poltergeist activity, and they're like, that's you. It's not a demon. This is you doing telekinesis, because when you're with the ETs, you're telepathically communicating. They're levitating. That's not technology necessarily. That's them, because their technology is very psychically based. But I got case after case of people coming back from their experiences, and they're levitating, full-on levitating. Happened to Whitley Strieber. Jacques Vallée's case, the guy who got healed, levitated twice. Stephen Greer says, I levitated twice. Dolly Saffran, I'm like, I don't suppose you've ever levitated. And she gave me like, oh no, he's asking this.
When she was a kid, yeah.
And I got up 20 cases of that.
Yeah.
I ended up writing a whole book on levitation because this is absolutely something we can do.
And then, Diana Pasulka also pursuing the sort of religious lens through which levitation happened, because you have all these, I don't know what to call them, but these holy sort of whether it's apparitions or whether it's whatever, but you had like St. Francis of Assisi, like the stigmata stuff. Were they also levitated?
Yeah, there's weird bleed-throughs with a lot of this phenomena, but yeah, human levitation has been proven in a scientific laboratory setting repeatedly.
Really?
Oh, yeah. The experiments of Hereward Carrington using finger levitation. He put 4 people around a table, or a chair rather, and the breathing in and out, and then what is it? Stiff as a board, light as a feather.
Yeah.
And they lifted this guy up. He recorded a loss of weight of 47 pounds on the first attempt, 53 on the next, 48 on the third, over and over. It's never been repeated. But there was the case of Carmine Mirabelli, Brazil's greatest medium. They had all the scientists surrounding him, and he levitated. Actually went through the wall, through a darn wall. Yeah, that's been proven a number of times. The experience with Eusapia Palladino.
I would love to witness one of these things myself. Yeah. As a magician, obviously very skeptical of levitations when I hear about them because of the knowledge that I have. But I'm also very open to the idea of, yes, please. Like, let's.
I've seen, Chris Angel and some, like, show us the sky. No, they don't, because we've got wires.
No, there are. Yeah, but there are some. Like a friend of mine, Xavier Mortimer. He's a Vegas magician as well. He's known for levitating in the middle of a park. In the middle of a park.
Some of the stuff I don't know how they do it.
Using a jump rope in the sky.
And do you know how it's done?
I do, yeah. But
it's a trick?
Of course it's a trick. But you can fool people like that.
I fool people at work with a simple technique.
Yeah.
They absolutely lost their minds. At a certain angle, you can appear to levitate.
Yeah. That's the Balducci levitation.
Yeah.
That's where you lift one foot. Yeah.
It works really well.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah. There's a large, long list of levitation is one of the.
It's been photographed. There are photographs and films, but
yeah, again, I remain dubious because of and until I see it myself, I won't be 100% convinced.
Well, I had a family friend who swore up and down she levitated, and that's what got me into this. And then I found another one.
Yeah.
I got a lot of crazy looks.
I hear about it. Angela Ford told me she had levitated when she was a kid too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's a thing.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I want to see it. Or better yet, fly me to the moon.
Robert Monroe said he had 2 incidents of it.
Yeah.
He slipped down the stairs and floated down.
You know what? A lot of people have that memory of when they were a kid floating down the stairs. I have that memory.
There you go.
I have that memory of like not touching any of the stairs. But again, is this
You're
just
kidding.
like some psychological,
The stairway thing is tripping me out because I have a dozen cases of this.
Really?
There's I call it the floating stage. Age 5 to 10.
Yeah.
And the stairs figure in about most of these cases, actually.
Yeah.
Mostly down, but some going up.
Me, it's always down.
Yeah.
Always going down, and I remember like large leaps and like just light as a feather getting down these stairs.
Well, the Native Americans had something they called Native Indian running, I think.
Or
that's kind of, I guess, the term we got. But
yeah.
They knew this one guy who could do it, and they followed his footsteps, and they started getting wider and wider and wider, and then it disappeared. And 2 days later, they met him in town, and like, oh yeah, he's been here for 3 days.
Oh wow. Well, I'd love to hear from the audience too. If you've got any levitation stories, let us know. All right.
But yeah, the Psyops. Gosh, that's probably the only real case that I can. Melinda Leslie, if we talk to her, she's had a lot of this kind of MILAB stuff going on. She was on board, and she saw full-dressed colonel there. I interviewed her about that and put it in one of my books.
Jeremy Weeks, who was here as well, he had like an argument with an officer on board, and he knows what faction or what sort of department of military he was with. Like, he could see the badges and everything. He didn't want to tell me, but he's like, and there were apparently Grays on board, and they were arguing, why is he here? Why is he here? While he was there, he was confused at why he was there. And
yeah, Carla Turner, I think a lot of the cases she was working on.
Yeah.
Because she also, like Jacobs, came away with like, this is not great news.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of her stuff was, what we would call
MILAB stuff.
Because she kept talking about seeing officers, or her witnesses did, rather.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to something we wanted to talk about earlier. Hex, do you see any connection between the UFO alien activity and cryptids such as Bigfoot or Yeti?
100%.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah. I'm doing a lot of UFO research, and I started to hear about Bigfoot. I'm like, I'm not going there. That's a can of worms. What if it's real? I bet it is. I'm not ready for this. So I avoided it for the longest time. And then I get this guy from Canyon Country, California, living on the edge of the LA National Forest. 1978. He's a radiologist. A smart guy. Had a UFO basically land or hover in his backyard. And it took off. He says, the next night, Bigfoot showed up. I'm like, the next night? He's like, yeah. I was in telepathic contact with it. I'd never heard of this. Telepathic contact with Bigfoot? That's apparently a thing in a number of cases. He said it was mad at his dogs, which were going crazy. Bigfoot and dogs don't get along for whatever reason. And he felt sure that there was a connection here. And he says, just so you know, after this, we had a poltergeist outbreak in our home. I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of what is going on here. And I started to get some of these Bigfoot UFO cases. I ended up becoming a Bigfoot researcher. I had my own darn encounter with this lady she's a contactee, started having Bigfoot. This is on the other side of the LA National Forest in Acton. She's like, I know where it lives. Let's go. I'll show you. I think it's in this valley. We went up there. It's dusk. Or she brought all the sound equipment, right? She wants to record this thing. And she's pulling the stuff out of the back of the car, and I'm walking to the front of the car. There's no sign of civilization except for this dirt road. And this is maybe 5 or 10 miles off the 5 freeway. But the LA National Forest is I don't forget how many million of acres, but it's big. And I looked it up. Lots of Bigfoot reports there. And I'm standing in front of the car, kind of surveying the scene, and something roars. And my first thought is it's a jet going overhead. Of course, there was no jet. And she's petrified. She's stock still. She's absolutely petrified. She asked me, do these things kidnap people? I'm like, no, I've never heard of a case of that. I was wrong, it turns out. I was still new to Bigfoot research. So I later told her, I'm like, well, yeah, maybe stay inside. Because that has happened. It's super rare.
But we hear about the missing 411, right. Paulides stuff, and yeah.
But then this thing roars again, and now I can triangulate it. This roar went on for like 20 seconds. That's a long time.
Yeah.
If you've heard a lion roar, it's 5, maybe 10 seconds. I was right next to the lion in the zoo when it roared. It's like, whoa. I had no idea it was that loud. This thing echoed in my chest. It had high tones, it had low tones. I felt almost ultrasonic, some of it, because it's like, damn, what the heck is this? I'm all about bears. I've got all the books on bears for whatever reason. I grew up next to a cougar. The Mercury cougar, the cars, where they had a cougar advertising it. That cougar lived next to our house in a cage, sadly, but we would hear it all the time. I grew up in an area where there was a lot of wildlife in Topanga Canyon. But this thing was none of that. And then it roared again. Now I know where it is. I go running towards it. I want to see it. And she's like, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Get back here. That was my Bigfoot encounter. So we had to leave. She was hysterical. But
maybe for the best.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Hey, what better way to die than getting kidnapped by Bigfoot?
I can think of a better way.
All right. But at any rate, having looked into all these Bigfoot cases, most people who see Bigfoot are not going to see a UFO. Most people see a UFO or ETs are not going to see a Bigfoot. But there's a smattering of cases, and I'll say 200, which is, again, statistically insignificant, but it's there. Mm-hmm. And how do you explain this? People are like, Bigfoot's an alien. I don't think so. Bigfoot's been around forever. And depending on who you talk to, it's sentient, it's psychic, and so forth. But seeing some of these cases where Bigfoot's seen coming out of a UFO, walking in there with grays.
Yeah.
I think, and this is going to sound crazy, this is my assessment, I think some are contactees. If they're intelligent.
From another planet?
No. I think that they are being contacted by ETs in the same way you or I would be.
Oh,
or anyone.
Like they live here already.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And we know ETs are studying our planet from soil samples to collecting animals, rabbits, all of them,
Yeah.
picking up humans, taking genetic samples.
That's an interesting take. Yeah, it's an interesting take. I'll admit. There's also, we see them on board too.
Yeah,
like there are Jeremy Weeks, who is here once again. This guy was military. He worked on radars. He's got a crazy story of binary digits coming to him telepathically, and that he had which is a whole message and all sorts of stuff. But on board one of these things, he did remember seeing like a shorter.
Yep, it comes up.
Yeah, furry.
And dogmen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that was kind of a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
So Linda Godfrey came
Dogmen,
along.
frogmen, birdmen, cat people. There's all sorts.
Talk to Dolly. She saw a dog on board.
Wow.
I've only got I've got a few cases of cat people, and I kind of put them on the back burner.
Yeah.
I'm like, this, I don't know.
Some people say the Lyrans or
But I started to get more of those. So there seems to be all kinds of stuff going on here.
The one thing I think is interesting too is that you have all of these different species, right? Or variations of the same species, whatever it is. But you find them all on Earth, like in their primitive form, whether it's the mantis, whether it's the bird, whether it's the cat, whether it's the dog. And what does that tell you? It tells you that, like, we're all part of the family, the same family.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we're all sharing a gene pool on some level.
We don't understand genes.
Yeah.
We really don't. But yeah, I think there are little people, gnomes, elves, dwarves. Because I talked to this guy he swears up and down it was an elf. Because, it had a big nose, bald head, little brown jacket, boots, the whole deal. And it would talk to him. He saw it 4 or 5 times. Never touched him, but he knew it could manipulate objects. And his mom's like, you have an imaginary friend, don't you? Which confused him because, he's a little kid, but this was not imaginary. And he's like, next time it comes, I'm going to have to tell him I'm moving and to come with me. This was in Colorado. And the elf showed up and he's like, oh, I'm leaving, please come with me. And the elf got all sad and says, I can't do that. We're tied to this location. But I put this story out, in my books and on YouTube. The response was crazy. I'm thinking, elves are from the 1800s, right? No, turns out a bunch of people are like, oh, this happened to me. I had the same, we saw 6 little people and just a lot of them. One case that stuck out was a guy says, this may have been secondhand, but at any rate, an elf appeared and it's holding up his Matchbox car and looking at it. He wakes up and goes, oh my God. It runs through the wall with the Matchbox car in his hand, and the Matchbox car hits the wall, drops to the floor, and spins. It's just a vivid detail. Like, how do you make this stuff up?
I mean, it sounds so fantastical.
But what I want to know is who's making their little sweaters? Where are these? One guy's smoking a pipe. Really?
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is like there's a whole culture, right? If you're wearing colors or tight-fitting clothes, then to some extent, aesthetics matter, right? So if aesthetics matter, that means you have art. That means you have a palette. That means you have a history of art, a history of culture. Exactly. And that's fascinating that there's culture attached to this stuff. For the most part, we hear about, nothing in the ships.
Yeah, they don't have paintings or anything.
Great. No, right? So we assume they're like, oh, you guys are just bland or something. But then you hear about other stories, and you're like, "Oh no, wait, there is something." There's
cases involving music, and these UFOs are aesthetically beautiful.
They are, yeah.
Travis Wallen talked about that.
I mean, look at the sports model.
Yeah,
arguably, that looks like a Ferrari.
And their jumpsuits. The jumpsuit is the fashion of choice.
That's right
with the ETs, but they have cloaks and capes and
and a lot of these, they're all fit, right? They're all fit. They're like in shape. And so, again, obviously health matters, but maybe also the way they look to some extent mattered at one point where they would, breed in that direction or something. Like, I mean, these questions have to be asked, when you see them and they're like, okay, why are all these tall blondes? Like, what's the point here? Like, does this matter where you're from? You know what I mean? And so, I don't know.
Interesting, but I think those are little people. I think they're probably interdimensional to some degree, but I'm not convinced they're ETs.
Yeah.
And I know it goes back throughout history.
The elves, you mean?
But yeah. But when you're in the 1800s, the 1700s, and 1600s, you're not thinking ETs. So I think there's quite a bit of bleed through and misinterpretation of a lot of these things because we always look at things through the lens of our own culture.
Yeah.
Like the airship wave of 1890, 1910.
Yep.
Always kind of puzzled me because those are Zeppelins. Well, Zeppelins were invented in 1903. And I started really looking at that. There's not grays on these things.
Yeah.
These are people.
Yeah.
I honestly think that's us, technology that
Testing things out.
That's my take on it right now.
It's probably a good take.
But it's hard to say for sure.
I mean, I always think back to Aztec, 1948, New Mexico. The people who discovered the saucer, one of the first people to come to the site, who runs up on the ship.
Yeah, a group of firemen, wasn't it?
Yeah. And at the same time, you had a helicopter coming in. Now, that's advanced military tech. Helicopters weren't out till 1948 or whatever, like up and around then. So that's like seeing a stealth bomber. He's seeing two UFOs, right? He's seeing a helicopter and he's standing on a flying saucer. Like he's having the craziest day of his life.
That's got to be really confusing.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's like the most modern human tech and like whatever that is. Yeah, I think back to that. All right, I think we've hit the mark here. I mean, I could talk to you for hours and hours. This has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me. We do have a few books that Preston wrote, which we will be giving away to some of the members as well. So if you're a member, just comment below. We'll choose one of you and we'll send that out. We'll have you sign those if that's all right. And if you want to purchase one of these books, I would highly recommend it. First of all, go check out Preston's YouTube channel. I left the link below. But also check out one of his many, many books, because this is literally what we've been talking about. It is just the tip of the iceberg. You're going to walk away so much more knowledgeable and, just entertained, if nothing else, by the vast amount of stories that you have to, share with us. Where can they do that, Preston?
I'm pretty easy to find. I do have a website. You can see excerpts of my books, prestondennett.weebly.com. I'm on I can't keep up with the social media platforms, but I'm on a bunch of them. And my books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, bookstores near you, if you can find one. I remember the day when there were a lot of bookstores. Those days are over.
Yeah.
I used to spend a lot of time in those.
Now bookstores are in a little brown box or on your screen.
But yeah, my books are pretty easy to find, I hope.
They are. They came, I ordered a bunch. They came the next day. But yeah, go support Preston. And books are really easy and fun to read too. They're really great reads. I really enjoyed reading them. And so I'd highly recommend that. Anything else you would like to say before we go?
No, I think we covered it. I would just say, do your own research. Don't believe anyone. Don't believe me. Look into it. When I say, ETs aren't here to take over, prove me wrong or don't, just do your own research. I would not look to the government. But yeah, just move past fear. Love and truth to guide your actions, because we're dealing with a lot of delusion and confusion on this planet. And we really need to work hard to, I think, come together and just do the right thing. So yeah, love and truth. Love is the answer.
Thank you so much, Preston.
My pleasure. Thank you.
On November 11th, 2025, my two kids and I went into the backyard in Savannah, Georgia, to try and get a glimpse of the northern lights. There had been this big solar storm, and what we saw instead was something that none of us will ever forget. In quick succession, we saw like 5 UFOs, and the most striking was this giant triangle, and it had this grid-like pattern of white lights on the underside of it. But the craft itself was like semi-transparent, like you could see through it. When it moved in front of the stars, you could see the stars behind it. It didn't make any noise, didn't have navigation lights. My daughter, who's 11, burst out into tears and said, Mom, I feel this humming inside of me. It's like this loud humming. I didn't experience that, but she did. It was unnerving, for sure. I would say the more striking event happened later that night. My daughter and I had a shared dream experience. where these three non-human but human-like beings spoke to us telepathically. They had these big, bright blue eyes, and my daughter, she said they look like Malfoy's family from Harry Potter, so they're like tall and, pale and blonde with long blonde hair. And they said to us, "We've always been here, but now you can see us."